Where?
Yeah, I'm very bad at Deadeye, and I would like to not be bad.
How's it going?
Yeah, I definitely brought a beginner build. So
I don't know what the beginner builds are. I just have the Deadeye power build.
By the way, Zoa Hodge says hello.
Hi,
We have
Hodge.
we're doing a discussion about kind of like benchmarks and possibly starting to feature more things that don't have a build on the site. And so we're
Ooh.
discussing all that, and so I had to let Hodge know, okay, for the next 2 hours I'm going to be busy with a thing.
Okay.
And so when I told him that, he's like, oh, say hi to Zoa.
Oh, okay.
Aw.
Oh, hi, Sarah Helm. Sarah Helm is in the chat and was saying to spawn boss level 10,000. So that's supposed to be the kitty golem then?
Do you like my teeth?
Yeah, look at that. Purple.
Could you put a link to your Twitch somewhere on the server so I can find it?
On what? On the Guild Wars 2 Girls server? What are
Yeah,
you looking for?
that way I can like keep a monitor open to see
Yeah, here, I'll
chat
just
if
send it to
like
you. Bop.
there's ever any questions and stuff. Thank you.
I feel like I should have my thief chat blocker up today. That's appropriate for the thief class.
Okay, so what was the method we discussed for getting my screen shared so I can?
All you need to do is stream through Discord, and then I can pull it up on
Okay.
my stream.
Move. Let's go top. So
Attack!
from the beginning. Okay. Discord.
Oh, thief class. There we go. Start event.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Watch your stream. I'm gonna pop this out.
Zargo might be slipping in at some point.
Oh, nice. Hopefully Chupa's
Okay.
gonna stop by as well. I think Chupa was thinking about.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Alright, want me to just get started?
1 second. The thing is not. Your stream
okay.
isn't actually displaying for me for some reason, so I'm gonna restart that. Okay, pop it out, please.
Hello, Zargo.
Oh, hi. Sorry for being late.
Why is your thingy not working? Okay, take this. Try it again. Watch stream. Yes, please. Pop out screen. Why is Discord pop out not working? Okay, I'm just gonna restart Discord really quick. 1 sec. Wait, building a cannon? Oh, the channel. I have returned. Okay, let's see if I can get this stream to work this time. Yay! Okay, there's that, and then I just gotta add the source. Yeah, this beautiful PowerPoint
Hey.
that has been created by Scar.
And I guess we'll see if there's any sort of on it.
Let me.
Thankfully, I don't have any audio portion of it, so we don't have to worry about that.
There. Okay, just have it go over those two, so then you can see the whole thing. Where did it go? Did I put it in a folder? I did. There we go. Okie dokie.
Alright, shall I get started?
Yeah, I think we are ready to go.
Okay. So, for those who don't know me, which might just be Boo, or anybody watching this back later, my name is Iskarel. I'm the content editors for Snowcrows. Currently, I do various benchmarks for Deadeye, Spectre, Firebrand. I started playing in Core. I left before Heart of Thorns, and then I found out, hey, I've bought this game. Now you're making it free to play, and you want me to buy an expansion? Bah humbug! So I stopped thinking about the game, and then picked it back up around Path of Fire, Living World Season 4. And that's when I discovered Deadeye. I fell in love with Deadeye, even though it's very strange, as we'll get to. I have experience with just any part of PvE. It's what I focus on. I avoid PvP on the rest of the world. And especially over the last 2 years, where I've focused is building a lot more expertise in Thief to be a resource to other players, so they can see if this is something that is cool to them and something they want to engage with. I think there's an ad, so I'll just wait for that and then flip to the next slide.
Oh yeah, I don't know how the ads work as far as if people just like, you just don't get to hear what's going on during the ad, or if it just like resumes afterward. That's fucking rude that you actually missed part of the content. I don't like that.
I will be back after the short ad break.
Yeah. After a short ad break.
Or I guess I can talk about the structure of each of these background slides. So they're the icons for the 4 elite specs, and it's funny because when I ask people, or when people talk about the color of Thief, people refer to like the... I'm trying to remember what color is it in FPS. Are we actually red?
It's like a mauve.
Yeah, we're kind of like this mauve red color. But like the list on Snowcrows, the color is in blue. I'm like, have you not looked at Thief trait lines? They're all red. They're all very, very red.
You know what?
That's why
I've never thought of that. But I've
So
always
that's why I made the
associated
background
Thief
red.
with purple.
it's also got like a fair amount of purple, and it's kind of cool. Like a lot of the
Purple
skills
and
that
red.
Deadeye brought in were extremely red, whereas
Yeah.
Daredevil's color palette is much closer to Core.
Yeah.
And then Spectres in some cases is the wells are kind of like Technicolor, but then the shroud itself is very red purple.
yeah.
And then he juxtaposed the bright red of the Deadeye stealth skills with hide in shadows, the core skill, in blue. So, all right. So the way that this presentation is going to go, I'm going to go through Core Thief, introducing the profession mechanics, talking about them, giving context. We'll go into the elite specs. So the first thing to know about Thief, and the thing that causes a lot of consternation in the competitive modes, is that Thief is swift. Thief is very fast. It outright specializes in moving fast. It has the most types of shadow steps in the game, and because a lot of them are tied to the profession mechanic of initiative, Thief can use them more frequently. There are also various buffs to your run speed and to dodging. There are a lot of improvements to dodging. I should... Oh! There we go. Okay. The other thing, Thief is stealthy. Another thing that causes problems in competitive modes. So, Thief has a lot of access to smoke fields, which is a way that you can share stealth with the team by performing blast finishers. We have a lovely Reaper here who is summoning bone minions to blast area stealth. There's also direct access to stealth from utilities, which is pretty common, and then also on weapon skills. You can also find that, for example, on Mesmer, where the torch has stealth. So in the lower left, you can see the thief using a dagger skill to get stealth, attacking with the backstab. And when you see the little yellow kind of feline eyes above your head, we'll get into that later. It means you're revealed and you can't stealth. But Thief, specifically Deadeye in PvE, they removed it for competitive. Thief has the ability to get rid of that revealed and go straight back into stealth. Another core aspect of Thief is that it's a saboteur. And this is one of its most well-known things in PvE. Thief has a lot of really strong crowd control skills. Basilisk Venom is very well known, applying an effect to you and allies, and then you apply very strong CC to your enemies. There's Pistol Headshot, which is being showcased in the bottom left. This is a Deadeye using their traits to cast a lot of headshot, so much that the bar actually breaks before the Deadeyes actually run out of steam. Staff, the weapon introduced by Daredevil, has Hook Strike and Helmet Breaker, which again are extremely strong Defiance breakers.
Big CC times.
Big CC. And some of these are outright unblockable. So as someone who only plays Char, who grew up in the game in the Char starting areas, I hated these ghosts that block your attacks. And then I found out Choking Gas, a short bow skill, is unblockable in a daze. So even if they're blocking you, you can interrupt them out of it. And then there's also the Pitfall skill, which is available to all Thief, and Basilisk Venom available to all Thief. It's very nice. Okay, so as I began to introduce, Thief has a mechanic called Initiative. So Thief does still have cooldowns. They're on the utility skills. They're on the profession mechanics, the F1, F2 buttons. But your weapon skills do not have cooldowns. They just consume Initiative. And I'm very proud of these.
That was very wild to me when I first started playing Thief. You know, coming from like Ranger and stuff where you actually have cooldowns, it was so confusing to me that I was like, how come I can just keep hitting this skill until I finally like looked at the bar and I was like, oh, there's some things up there.
Yeah, and I'm also very proud of these Initiative diamonds. These I made myself the other night. When I was putting together this PowerPoint slide, I realized I don't have high-res Initiative diamonds. The only ones on the wiki are like 20 by 20 pixels, so I just made these basically in Photoshop. Their emissive is kind of messed up, but so unlike other professions, Thief weapon skills, they don't have cooldowns, they just consume points of initiative to use them as many times as you'd like. These skills tend to be very specialized, and the high damage ones often mix together forced movement and animation locks. I don't think anyone has ever explicitly said that that's a design mantra for Thief, but it does a good job of balancing out the fact that on Thief, hey, you're just spamming the same skills. That's not very interesting. But because they have these limitations to them, you need to work around those limitations all the time. There are also skills and traits in Thief that restore initiative. And quickly touching on what Zoe was talking about, that when you're coming from other professions, it can take some getting used to when you're working with stealth. Something to consider, again in the bottom left, this Thief using Dagger 5 to get stealth. Something that people will... A habit that they'll take from other professions is they'll think, okay, this skill is a cooldown, so I can just mash my input as much as I can, because it'll only cast it once when I need it.
Yeah.
If you do that on Thief, you'll Dagger 5 for stealth, you will Dagger 5 again, which is a lot weaker than doing what we actually want to do from stealth, and we'll get into that later, which is a proper backstab.
Hey, Scar,
so you can kind of see... Yeah?
remember when I was playing Condi Daredevil on Largos, and you were watching my stream? And I just didn't stop doing Dagger 3 because I didn't understand that concept.
Yeah. And so with the Thief in the bottom left, which that's my character Gar, the one I normally play, the one we have in the aerodrome now, you can see she uses the left dagger to get stealth, but actually stabs with the right-hand dagger. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to just repeat that initiative skill twice. So even though you can repeat these skills, one of the things we often have to tell people when they're coming to Thief from other professions, when they're struggling, is the stereotype is that Thief is very spammy. The physical spamminess is actually something you need to unlearn from other professions. You need to be more measured with your inputs. Just want to discuss about that. So I mentioned that Thief skills tend to be highly specialized, so I'll do a couple skill comparisons. So we can talk about Scrap or Thunderclap from their hammer. This is an AoE stun, and then it pulses, dealing high damage. A good skill for Defiance Break. It's a lightning field, so you can combo with it for more Defiance Break, and it also does really good damage. Thief has Choking Gas. This is a spammable skill, like every Thief skill. It's an AoE daze. It's unblockable as well, that's nice. It's not good damage, though. So you wouldn't really be using this for even when you're dealing with crowds, and certainly not when you're dealing with a single target, whereas Scrapper's Thunderclap is still great against a single target. We can also look at Revenant, which kind of shares some like gameplay DNA with Thief, especially if you look at Shiro and Dual Swords Revenant. It has a lot of Shadow Steps, mobility. So Revenant's Death Strike, Sword 5 skill, you Shadow Step to the target, and this is a lot stronger than your auto attacks. It's 2 very quick strikes that do a lot of damage. Main Hand Sword, which doesn't see a lot of use in PvE, but is very popular in PvP and War vs. World. It has its skill where you Shadow Step to the target, you hit them with the sword. It's good damage, it's not amazing. And it flips over to another skill for 15 seconds, where you can Shadow Step back where you came from and cleanse a condition. So again, it's that specialization. This skill is very good at mobility and offers more options, but you pay for it by having less damage. Across Thief's weapon arsenal, there are several skills that they do less damage than your auto attack, so you're just going to use them when you need. So there's a big list here. I don't want to read through all of them, but quite often there is mobility or evades or some way to deal with kind of if aggro's come onto you, you can get rid of immobilize, you can put up a smoke field to blind enemies, you can daze enemies, stuff like that. I alluded to this earlier. Since Thief DPS builds keep spending their initiative on one skill, anything that makes that skill stressful is just going to become a constant problem. Very often, especially in the current meta, that's skills that... So projectiles that cannot cleave or pierce, or even melee skills that can't cleave or pierce, or they have forced movement to them, and they'll just come up all the time. So other builds might feature an animation lock every 10 seconds. Thief builds can do that 3 times as often.
So as an example, really quick, speaking of forced movement and using a primary skill, on Heal Spectre, I know one of the primary ones I want to use is Scepter Pistol 3, which is absolutely forced movement. And so while you're with an ally, as long as you're next to them, so what happens the first time you hit them, it'll teleport you closer to them. Which, you know, if you're in a stack, that works out okay because you're right here. But if they move around, it's a problem. And if you accidentally select not a friend, then your first pistol skill, well, there's not I don't have an enemy right now, but your
Is
first
there a
pistol
mini?
skill,
or we can spawn the golem.
Yeah, you can spawn the golem really quick. Can I target a mini? Okay, there it is. So now I'll use it here. Boink! I get launched backwards. So, but with an ally, you get launched forwards. So, yeah, you end up having to be very aware of.
Yeah, so even our heal build has forced movement.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the Thief hallmark. It was kind of exceptional when conditioned DPS Spectre didn't have forced movement. All right.
Your PowerPoint again.
Thank you. Very old school. I put a nice PowerPoint. A lot of slide. I had fun putting this together. So much fun. Okay, so still talking about initiative. Thief doesn't have a heal without dying this hill. That's fair. It still needs a lot of improvements, Chupa. I will not protest that. It's funny that it's a heal build and it still has the force movement, but it's like, is it a good heal build? Is it going to see play? Not really. Okay, so we've got our initiative. We've got our initiative bar at the bottom, and there you get 1 point every second. So if a skill takes 3 initiative, then you can cast it every 3 seconds. So you could kind of say, oh, it was a 3-second cooldown, but it's very different. If you have a full bar, you could cast it 4 times, and because it'll take time to cast it, right, you might refill the initiative again. Other ways to increase your initiative. Infiltrator's Signet will give 1 more point every 10 seconds. Not fantastic. Roll for Initiative, very funny name, and it gave its name to this section. That's a nice skill. It's a stun break, roll backwards, you refill a bunch of initiative in a burst. Deadeye has a similar skill called Mercy. It's a stun break, and it can refill even more initiative by interacting with Deadeye's profession mechanics. And then we have various traits, which basically look for a prompt in your gameplay, and then they'll give you stealth for it. So Shadow Arts Rejuvenation, you get initiative when you enter and exit stealth. Acrobatics Upper Hand, when you dodge attacks, stealth. Trickery is Kleptomaniac and Quick Pockets, initiative whenever you steal and when you swap weapons. And Thief has the same weapon swap cooldown as regular professions. So if you are, let's say, using staff because it's your melee weapon, and then you want to swap to a short bow for mobility or range, you still have 10 seconds before you can use it again. And then there's Jedi's Maleficent 7, which is kind of the hallmark, big, well-known initiative refund on Thief. This is when you stealth attack. It has a lot more rules about it. It's the trickiest to work with, but conveniently, it is the most rewarding. These others, they refund like 3, 1, 2, 3 initiative. Maleficent 7 gives you a nice big 7. So, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so now some examples of what you can do on your turn with initiative. So this is a kind of sloppy demonstration of Power Daredevil style, where you do a sort of burnout burst. Get your full initiative, and then you're going to use it on your highest damage skill in one big burst on the enemy. You apply your modifiers. So for Daredevil, after you dodge, you get damage. You use Assassin's Signet, boost your damage. This is kind of, when people think of Thief, this is one of the ways that they'll expect it, and it'll be one of the ways they try to play. You can also... I need to remember to click. Yeah, okay, clicking is good, scrolling is bad. You can play a build that kind of lives paycheck to paycheck. Condition Daredevil is my prototypical example here. So we'll pay attention to the Daredevil's initiative. We do a dodge, Death Blossom, auto attack. Dodge, Death Blossom, auto attack. And we're running very low on the initiative here. We're going to just keep going and basically stay starved for the whole time. You have a little bit of refill to keep yourself going, but you're not going to get back up to full initiative because just spend it. You don't have a burst window to work with. In solo play in PvP World versus World, you can play a lot more defensive with your initiative. You can spend it... Here I'm just using Headshot, which is a daze to interrupt. I could also use Dagger Pistol 3, which blinds an enemy once and is a mobility skill. Pistol 5, which is a smoke field, which continues blinding. So here, I'm just avoiding all the damage that I can and leaning on the strong auto attack damage daggers. And lastly, you can take advantage of traits so that you refill. So we're going to give context to this Deadeye clip later, but just watch the initiative bar and watch how it just keeps filling with not auto attacking him. So we're taking advantage of a trait in Deadeye, and then on the right side of the skill bar, there's a utility skill, Mercy. This is Deadeye's utility skill to refill initiative. We also take advantage of that. So Deadeye is the prototypical example, but we'll also talk about Spectre later, which is a little bit of a hybrid between Condition Daredevil style of burning out all our initiative and then we stay there, and Deadeye style of having a refill. Now we're going to talk about Thieves' Tools, or weaponry. I kind of had fun choosing this one because I decided to do my entire presentation with Char iconography instead of the standard human iconography on the skills. This one is fun because Claw the Conner, it's Char, it's Dagger like Thieves, but you could also consider, are you actually here to steal it? It's in this nice display box.
I know, I like that guy in the background that's like shrugging.
Smoter, he's like, I guess it's fine, I'll take it. Alright, so the one-handed weapons. Pistol. We'll get into it in a bit. This is it's best known for its unload skill. We just blast them with pistols. It does pretty weak strike damage. It has access to crowd control. Dagger. This is one of Thieves' best DPS weapons, and it's pretty much entirely focused on damage. It does let you get directly into stealth. We saw that earlier with my Char using the Dagger skill to get into stealth. Pistol Dagger. This has modest condition damage. It was nerfed years ago when it rose. Basically, flew too close to the sun. It also has a good mobility skill, and because it has that offhand dagger, it can get direct stealth. Dagger Pistol, swapping those around, that has strong power damage. It has the main hand auto attacks of Dagger, which are good for power. It has mobility. You can teleport to enemies by shooting with the bullet and then following up. It has CC from the pistol and a smoke field from the pistol. So a lot of these, once you know, okay, the offhand pistol has Headshot for Defiance Break and Black Powder for a smoke field, you know that you can decide, okay, I want pistol because I want range and I want those skills, or Dagger Pistol because I want more damage in melee, or we can look at Sword Pistol. This introduces evasion and it doubles down on the crowd control. Sword Dagger gets rid of some of that crowd control, and you're able to be more mobile, to evade, and to boon steal. One of the cool things to think about, we know that the pistol skill directly provides CC with a headshot, but if you use the dagger offhand skill to get stealth, you have your sword dagger, and then you hit them with the stealth attack from the sword, which is just hit them with your first skill from stealth, that is a crowd control skill. So even though the sword dagger, when you look at its 5 skills, which are power auto attacks, a mobility to blink to the enemy, an evasion around the enemy, and then boon steal, throwing a dagger that ricochets, and then entering stealth, none of them do crowd control on their own, but because this weapon has access to stealth, it can get crowd control from the sword. So a lot of these are very technical, and it's why I brought up the point of thief skills being highly specialized, is that if you have a skill like Binding Blade on Guardian, it's Defiance Break, it's a pull, but it's also just better damage than autos, so you're just going to use it instead of auto attacks. That's really not the case with a lot of thief skills. If something CCs, you're probably not pushing it all the time. Introduced by Spectre, we have Scepter Dagger. This is quite similar to Dagger in that it's a weapon set focused entirely to damage. Just conditioned though, it does see play for power. I think it still sees play for power in like World vs. World roaming. And Scepter Pistol, this is a healing boon support weapon. So Zoa showed off earlier that it has that skill where you teleport to the ally that provides them healing, boon, barriers, and since you have that offhand pistol, you've still got access to headshot. So it's a pretty good support kit.
Look at all those boons. You get some
So-
regen, you get some barrier, you get some vigor. Plus 2 gives you protection.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. So maybe this is a good place to talk why you're mentioning combinations of weapons every time you speak about like.
That's going to come up. I have a slide.
Oh, you haven't even talked about that yet.
Yeah,
Right.
I want to introduce the weapons broadly, and then we'll get into that.
Okay, and I have a question. Is there a difference between using plus sign and dash, or in this slide, like what was the thought process on
Don't
that?
point that out. Okay, look, this is clearly saying that
Notice.
Dagger is best, and it gets a
I was
special.
spent the whole last 5 minutes
All
trying
right.
to find a system in that.
Kick Zargle out of this call. He's trying to ruin my day. The
I
two-handed
love it.
weapons. The
That's
two-handed.
perfect.
Okay. Staff, introduced by Daredevil. This has high strike damage, a lot of mobility, a lot of utility. Has crowd control options. You can reflect projectiles with it. We'll get to see that in action later. The rifle, introduced by Deadeye. This also has high strike damage, extreme range, 1500 units. It's not actually the longest range weapon in the game. Go figure. It can put up a projectile block field, and its bullets can pierce and immobilize enemies, which is actually pretty interesting when you're trying to help people hold down one enemy. If you're ever doing like escort, a Deadeye can hold a warg immobilized from range. It's not the only one that can take care of that, but it can be handy. Short bow. This is largely a utility weapon, but it does have area damage. It's great for tagging multiple enemies in open world to get credit. It also has crowd control. We talked about choking gas, which is an AoE daze and it's unblockable. Great skill. The underwater weapons, just to be thorough. Harpoon gun. This weapon has mobility, and it specializes in condition damage. It's not a fantastic condition damage weapon, but it's trying. Spear is a strike damage weapon. It's a bit of a duelist weapon. It has evasion, it has a block, it also has access to stealth. It's a pretty good weapon. It's not incredible. I wouldn't say like Power Deadeye underwater is Power Hollow underwater, but we get by. Alright, this is what Zargle was alluding to. I already had the slide queued up. Dual wielding. So,
It's a double
all
screen, too.
builds in Guild Wars 2 can hold 2 weapons. If you play an engineer, you can have pistol. What you won't see on engineer is firing those 2 pistols at the same time. That's where thief comes in. Your third weapon skill combines attacks from your main hand and offhand weapons. A lot of them are condition damage focused because there's a trait that makes them all apply poison on each cast. So here you can see my character Gara again. She has a sword and dagger. Pretty much the only time I'll have a sword and dagger outside of competitive mode. So these are the best known dual wield skills. They're not actually exclusive to any of these builds, but Dagger, Death Blossom is best known for Condition Daredevil. This evades attacks and inflicts extreme bleeding. 45 seconds base, and it's only 4 initiative, so you can get it at least every 4 seconds. So that's like 10 bleed per second. That's a lot of bleed. Power Thief's Unload. This is a core skill. You shoot enemies with both pistols, which looks really cool, because again, the subtle thing is that nowhere else, even on like Guardian getting those new pistols, you'll never see Guardian firing both pistols at the same This
question
actually
about this.
refunds the initiative you spend on it, so you can just cast Unload forever. Did you have something, Zava?
Yeah, I had a question about pistol for Power Thief. In general, like
Yeah.
I want to be using pistol in raids.
Yeah,
Please.
its budget is basically fixed into the fact that you can cast it infinitely now, and the fact that it generates might, which is
Ooh.
quite good when you're solo. And because you have free range of movement, 900 range, it's kind of been balanced in a way that, like, for example, Condition of Virtuosa never was. I don't know why a net solution was, we'll just make the unload infinite, because that actually did not move the dial much. There was a, like, 26k Deadeye unload bench that used Maleficent 7 to unload forever.
Uh-huh.
And so they let us auto-cast unload, and it gained, like, 2,000 DPS. And at that point, you'd have no rotation.
So it is possible.
I mean, here's the thing. You could play unload Deadeye and beat a lot of pugs, because 28k or like 27k DPS it's bad, but you really can't play it wrong, because there's nothing else to push, and it's at range. You don't even need melee uptime.
Man, I wish it did more. I want to, because pistol unload is so much fun, and I want to.
I have an old
I
friend
want to be doing that on
who-
Daredevil even.
I have an old friend who, like, he played Illusions, Axe Mirage. He played Condition Weaver. Like, he played a lot of stuff that's really well known for being difficult. He also loved Unload, because the animation of just running and gunning with two pistols at the same time, it is very iconic. It's very Thief. Lastly, two important dual wields introduced by Spectre. For the condition damage side, there's Scepter Dagger combination, which inflicts torment and poison on enemies from range. Less damage than Death Blossom, but it's at range, although Death Blossom evades, so maybe some give take. And then Heal Spectre, Zoa already shot off this one. Measured Shot, you fire the pistol at your allies, but it's okay because it heals them. It grants healing. And then Endless Night is a beam, which is kind of similar to the Scepter skill on Mesmer, where you channel a beam of energy at the player, and that will give barrier, vigor, regeneration. And a lot of them, actually. It can practically just instantly cap regeneration. Now we're going to talk about stealth.
Ooh,
So-
fancy.
If no one's ever seen this, this is part of the Ash Legion Char intro. So we're
I was
coming
gonna
up with stealth,
say.
and we're getting somebody. So this is how Thief uses stealth. You could use it to get past other people. You can be very good for that in competitive modes. You can also use it to avoid aggro in PvE. But the unique thing about Thief, right? If anyone's done like or heard about Harvest Temple CM, they use stealth on the whole group to manipulate the pathing of the enemies. But it's only Thief that has special attacks that come out from stealth. So once you're in stealth, your first skill, your auto attack, flips over to a special stealth attack. A lot of these are tuned for damage, kind of thematically, but there's some outliers. Two of them are used for crowd control. Sword, Tactical Strike. So I talked about that earlier, how Sword Dagger can actually do CC, because you'll use Dagger 5 to get stealth, and then you use Tactical Strike, which is basically hitting someone in the back of the head with the hilt of the sword, which is very Thief, and that does a 2-second daze. There's Hook Strike, which is the stealth attack for staff, which is you basically walk up to somebody and sweep their legs out from under them with your staff. That's a 4-second knockdown. When ANET buffed this
long.
skill, it was originally 2 seconds. It was bugged and became 6 seconds. They only wanted it to be 4, but we had to tell them, this is 6 seconds, ANET. This is fucking crazy. But they made it just 4 seconds. And then there is Shadow Squall for Spectre. And the interesting thing about this is that even though the Scepter stealth attack can be used on allies, that will still reveal you, right? So let's talk about revealed. When you strike an enemy from stealth with any strike damage, not just Thief's special stealth attack, you get revealed. Again, the example of Harvest Temple CM, it could be a problem where, I still had a damage field on the ground, a trap or something, or I even had like a Mesmer Phantasm leading its attack. I receive stealth, deal damage, you get revealed. And while you're revealed, player is immune to stealth. This is one of the few like non-char bits of media that I put in. So here, this is not a live feed, but I've set myself up deliberately so that my trap skill hits the golem while I'm in stealth, I get revealed, and that's generally not great for Thief if you ever want to be taking advantage of those stealth attacks, or if you just want to avoid notice. So, common with pulsing damage. It can also happen with projectiles that are in flight. So imagine you're at very far range, you fire a bullet, and then you enter stealth, the bullet hits, and now you reveal yourself. Not great. Okay, the last core profession mechanic on Thief is Steal.
That's not a char.
That's not a char. It's a kobold.
Yeah.
This is art from one of the kind of recent D&D books. I remember seeing it months and months ago, and I was like, "That's so cute," and it reminds me of Gilbert's Two Thief. Imagine if you could be like a Farfetch and like beat someone that you stole. So this professional mechanic comes from Core Thief. It's shared by Daredevil. You shadow step up to an enemy and you rob them. You get a special skill. There are 4 raid stolen skills. The most famous ones are Detonate Plasma, which used to give every boon except Alacrity. So you could have a Daredevil acting as a quickness provider for the group, and you got really nice luxury boons for Matthias. You'd have stability and resistance and Aegis periodically. And then throw a Magnetic Bomb, which is kind of something pilfered from Engineer. Magnetic Bomb is a skill that they have, but this is a really souped up version. It's a large pull that damages and draws in 10 enemies. Thief isn't fantastic for cleave, but this skill, that's a lot of cleave. So when you use Steel, you can get all kinds of things. You can get support consumables. There's one like an open world where it puts down like a little tree with its own field of water, and voila, you have a water field on Thief. You could blast it with your short bow and get area healing. Damage dealing skills like throw mag bomb. If anyone's familiar with Plague Lands on Necromancer, where it inflicts every condition, more or less, it doesn't actually have. Thief has a version of that called Throw Cursed Artifact from Bone Skinner, and that inflicts every damaging condition and vulnerability, and it's an ethereal field for confusion bolts.
Ooh.
You can get mobility tools. One of the really great stolen skills, and I think underrated stolen skills in raids, is called Unstable Artifact. It's a 1500 range shadow step, and it can be used to pull a downed person to you.
Ooh, yeah,
So if someone downs way out in Narnia, you can drag them right into the group and save them. There are stealth sources, defiance breakers. You can steal a club from someone that does like a 3-second stun. The skills can apply conditions. So all kinds of things available to steal. So now we'll talk about the trait lines and things.
Ooh,
So
that's
acrobatics.
cool art.
Acrobatics is focused on swiftness, movement skills, shadow steps. It cares about endurance and has ways to refill endurance. It has vigor, more dodging, and it gives you benefits for dodging. Earlier we talked about the upper hand trait, where when you dodge an actual attack, get 1 point of initiative. I'll linger on this slide for a bit since we haven't had going.
Oh, yeah,
And you also get regeneration.
I said, "Oh, we have one going right now." I should probably
Yeah.
keep. Well, the thing is, if I watch my own stream, I don't get the ads. So, although I guess my stream manager should tell me when it's happening.
You can get healing, condition cleanse. This trait line also prefers sword, but like for PvE, sword is not amazing. So like even if you have a build that uses acrobatics and PvE, which it can be a pretty good solo pick for Daredevil, it provides a lot of things Daredevil cares about, which is dodging, and it has some damage amplification. You wouldn't really use sword; you just stick to the staff because it's just a better weapon. And this trait line is largely the precursor to Daredevil. So you can use this trait line for open world with Power Daredevil, but like raid Power Daredevil doesn't take this trait line. It takes the 2 like canonical DPS trait lines on the which we'll get to. So I also had fun choosing this getup for demonstrating the Shadow Step on Thief Sword. This is actually the Willbender Ascended sword that came with the Elite Specialization. And when you move, it creates this noticeable visual trail. And when you Shadow Step, that trail follows you all the way. So it's a really cool, like, comic book way of demonstrating just how fast a Shadow Step is.
I didn't know that was specific to that sword. That's awesome.
Yeah, it also happens to let me go back to the dual builds. It happens to match my Thieves aesthetic a lot.
Yeah,
which
I noticed that.
She doesn't look very Thief, but the aesthetic was like heat mirages and actually just bending light. So you
Yeah, because I saw
and
that.
then I can look
was like,
glamorous
oh, that's
otherwise.
The Willbender one.
So critical strikes. This is a trait line. Just don't miss. It's a very simple one. You just press your advantage. You get more damage, or you deal more damage when you're at high health. So there's the Twin Fangs trait, which makes you deal 7% more critical damage, which if you're built to always crit, that's just 7% more damage when you're above 90% HP. There's Keen Observer, which gives you 15% critical chance. That's big. You need to stay above 75% HP. So for Power Thieves builds, avoiding incoming damage is key. This trait line gives you a lot of access to Vigor. You can share Vigor with allies. And it has kind of a hallmark but quite nerfed trait, Invigorating Precision, This allows the thief to heal when they deal critical damage. So for this example, there's a funny story to it. Weapon skills in Guild Wars 2 have weapon strength rolls. So every time you attack with them, there's a secret roll in the background to figure out how much damage it'll do. The rifle has the largest range on the lowest and highest damage that it can deal.
Huh.
And when I was recently benching Rifle Daredevil, I was talking with one of my proteges who learned a lot of like Deadeye from me and is having a ton of fun playing it everywhere. They're kind of a menace. They even play Heal Deadeye, and I haven't disavowed
What?
them, but I don't condone it.
How is that possible?
That's not on the presentation, because that one's really cooked. So Chupa doesn't need to worry about that one. But I mentioned to them that the
You don't
highest
speak
roll
about
that
him,
you
Sarah.
the highest roll that, or the highest damage that you could get with the rifle on the benchmark is to stack up all your modifiers and get a very high roll with the weapon strength, and that would be over 70,000. And I mentioned I've never consciously seen a 70,000 on the bench, and then about 5 minutes later I actually rolled a 70,000. You just stack up all the modifiers, and then you get big damage. Stay safe in damage. Deadly Arts. This is Thief's condition damage focus straight line, but it also has power damage. This artist does a lot of really nice artwork. So, it has a strong condition damage focus. You apply poison when you steal, when you use dual wield skills, mentioned that earlier, trait called Deadly Ambition, and every time you immobilize someone, you poison them. So there's a venom on Thief called Devourer Venom, which gives you and 4 allies 2 stacks of the venom, so 10 in total, and you'll immobilize enemies and then apply 1 stack of poison for it. There's another trait in this Deadly Arts trait line that doubles all of these kind of requirements that give you poison. So instead of applying 1 poison when you immobilize, you apply 2. So by using that venom, you've suddenly thrown 20 stacks of poison onto the person. And also they're immobilized for 10 seconds if it happens to be a target that can be immobilized. Deadly Arts is also taken for power damage. It increases your strike damage when you have daggers while you're revealed, right? So it's really doubling down on the identity of stealth attacks as a damage source. It increases your damage against low health targets, and you get bonus damage per condition on the enemy. Thief doesn't cover a ton of conditions on the enemy on its own. It does have access to various conditions, especially as we'll see in some later trait lines. But for instance, if you go to like an open world boss where everybody's just throwing every condition at the game on things, Thief and Engineer, they got a lot of bonus damage all the time against. Deadly Arts also buffs your steal. You apply poison when you steal. You can lifesteal from enemies. Very funnily, that trait to lifesteal is called Mug, mugging the enemy. And if you ever go to the Deadly Arts trait line, I should have included this image in the slide. If you go to the Deadly Arts trait line and look at the Mug trait, the icon is a mug, the kind you drink out of.
Wait, hold on.
You can inflict weakness on enemies when you steal, invulnerability, so you steal from someone, set them up for more damage. And the most interesting steal trait in Deadly Arts allows you to use all stolen skills twice. This was very strong for a long time for throw magnetic bomb and raids, because that's already a very high damage skill, and when you get 2 of them, it's just more damage. Right, I'll let Zoa show off the mug there.
Oh yeah, I showed that really quick. But yeah, see that cute little mug?
Alright, the next trait line, Shadow Arts. This is like a quote from a Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode of one of the characters saying, "I hear the Shadow Realms lovely this time of year." Which, it goes into Shadow Arts' dual identity. So what I wrote there is Savior and Terror. So Shadow Arts, in one way, is a precursor to Spectre. You provide ally benefits for stealth, which is also something Spectre cares about. Not just healing allies, but Spectre also wants to give stealth to allies. You provide healing, barrier, cleanse, and protection. This is not a fantastic way to support people. Applying stealth can be tricky, and it can be disruptive. It's aimed at trying. It's aimed at deciding, but it has to have the Thief flair to do the thing. It can't just do the thing like Guardian. It needs to have Thief flair. Shadow Arts can also be considered a precursor to Deadeye. It cares about stealth attacks. So you can modify your stealth attacks to siphon health, inflict weakness, steal boons, inflict fear, which there are some other sources of fear. You can steal like a spooky skull from enemies and use that to inflict fear. Spectre has a fear skill. And there's a special trait in Shadow Arts where whenever you get stealth, you get stacks of personal spider venom. Normally, spider venom is something that you share to your allies, and then they apply those stacks for you, and then that's your condition damage dealt. This trait just lets you keep stocking up on spider venom to apply to enemies every time you stealth. It's pretty cool. and discussed earlier, the Shadow's Rejuvenation trait. This gives you stealth every time you enter and exit stealth. Shadow Arts recently got a rework in 1.5 years ago or something, where it used to just let you stay in stealth longer, but that was kind of unhealthy for competitive modes, although it was quite useful in PvE, because you could just avoid enemy detection very easily forever. You can still do it forever. It takes more work. And they changed it because they wanted thieves to be going in and out of stealth. The last thing it can provide is blind and super. Super speed is pretty cool. It's when you go in and out of stealth. There's also the Relic of the Unseen Invasion from the expansion that can layer even more super speed on top. Alright, Trickery, our last trait line, if I'm counting right. Trickery does a lot of stuff, actually. So, Trickery improves your steal. We also saw that with Deadly Arts, but Trickery doubles down on it. When you steal, you gain initiative. You can gain boons and steal them from enemies, and these boons are shared with the team. It's a very nice thing. You can reduce the recharge of the steal, so you get all these benefits more often. You can daze enemies, and you can apply bleed when you steal. This actually mirrors a trait in Deadly Arts where you would apply poison when you steal, so you have both of them, like in Daredevil. You steal from somebody, and now they have 3 stacks for 20 seconds of poison, and 3 stacks, same thing with bleeding. So it's pretty scary. It also improves conditions. It increases bleed damage. You get Torment when you interrupt enemies. You just get flat expertise, so conditions do more damage. If you dodge, you can put caltrops on the ground which bleed enemies. And you also get a damage modifier that affects all damage, but there are better strike damage modifiers in the previous 2 trait lines, Critical Strikes and Deadly Arts. So this is where condition damage gets a big modifier. And lastly, as touched on in the earlier bullet points, you also improve your initiative when you take this trait line. You get plus 3 points. So if we look at the initiative bar at the bottom, that's what a 15 point initiative bar looks like. Trickery's, as far as I understand, still mandatory in competitive modes, because oftentimes when anyone wants to nerf Thief in competitive modes, they will nerf the initiative expense. You can get initiative when you steal, which is called Kleptomaniac, which is very funny. Initiative when you swap weapons, and you boost your damage per initiative spent. That's where that condition damage modifier comes from. So all sorts of things coming from. Alright, now on to Daredevil. Take a look at... Alright, we're about 1 minute or 1 hour in, so I think we're...
I've got a college kid question right now because I gotta go.
Yeah.
Are the slides posted anywhere?
Yeah.
They're not, but I can. I think it's like 600 megabytes, so we might have to set up like a Dropbox thing or something, and then I can give a link. We can totally look into that.
Posted on like Google Drive or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Guild Wars 2 Girls Google Drive, if you would.
Yeah,
prefer
we can
time
work
on
that out,
something like
definitely.
that. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I made this, is to make it kind of portable for people later.
Okay.
I
Cool.
had the
I'd
same
love to
thought
have
as
that.
like the college kid question of, is there a copy of the handout?
Yeah.
No, I'm sitting here the entire time, my canvas in the background, going, "Are the slides posted?"
Yeah, I thought making the slides would be a lot easier to reference later rather than like scrubbing through a 2-hour video, which
That
would
is
also work.
so
But
helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
yeah, and I'll also have like at this place I'll also have a lot of time for questions. Not to saying you can't ask now, but like after we've gone through everything, if something comes on your mind after that, we can definitely talk about it. I think we're pretty good on time.
Oh no, I just have to go. But thank you.
Yeah.
I'll post the link, Boo, in the server once we get it worked out and everything. And for everyone else
Yep.
listening, maybe we can get it figured out somewhere in the end of the video and
Yeah.
then post a link in the chat or something.
Sick. Thank you.
All right, so now we've gotten to the elite specialization. So starting with the Heart of Thorns entry, we have Daredevil, which is our acrobatic combatant. I'm not clicking the PowerPoint. There we go. So this is a direct upgrade of Core Thief.
Ooh.
You keep the steal. At one point, the steal was modified to be swipe, which was shorter range, half the range from 1200 down to 600, but it became unblockable, which is mostly interesting in competitive modes. Daredevil also upgrades its dodge. Dodge can enhance your strike damage, your condition damage, or it can just be more mobile and get rid of things like immobilize and cripple. Daredevil is largely a close quarters combat specialist. Technically, it could equip pistols on power, but then when you dodge and try to hit enemies with the dodge impact, they're like 900 units away from you. Who are you hitting? On condition, if you take something like Pistol Dagger, where you'll strike an enemy with the dagger and teleport backwards, and then you dodge and throw caltrops on the ground, well, you're not at the enemy anymore, so those caltrops can't hit. So, Daredevil fully embraces Thief's acrobatic style, combats enemies with harsh reprisals. Those are Thief's physical skills. Most of them disable the enemy. So, we'll watch this just for the flare at first, kind of commentate it the second time. So, Daredevil's dodge is very acrobatic. It has its own animation. You can use Staff 5 to actually go through jumping puzzles a bit easier. But you can also just jump with the dodge. The staff skill reflects projectiles. So Fist Flurry is, I think, 5 hits that you do just with your raw hands. It flips over to another skill called Palm Strike, and that skill will stun the target for 2 seconds, and then it's very anime. It does like a delayed, like, pulmonary embolism inside their body for more strike damage, but it happened to kill this one. So Daredevil has a lot of flair. It's very popular. It's flashy. It's effective. It has its short. So Power Staff Daredevil, one of the best known variants. It has strong burst damage, not like top of the line, but especially for Thief, quite good. And it has excessive crowd control, especially through its staff. It has good power cleave, which is not super common on Thief, especially in melee. For comparison, the Dagger auto attack hits 2 enemies. And then Dagger 2, Dagger 5, and the stealth attack hit 1 enemy. So your Staff 2, which is the hallmark skill on Daredevil, hits 3 targets. Punishing Strikes, the rest of your auto chain, that hits 3 targets. You can evade with your upgraded dodge itself. So that dodge strikes the ground when you land, and improves your physical damage for a short time. And you get more damage when your endurance is low. And you have Staff 5, so that was the skill that we saw here, where I actually used the staff to jump over to that area for a little bit of flair, but it can also be used to make tricky jumps easier because it's got more range and it can be targeted on the ground. I play without ground indicators. I should have turned on one to make it clear. And at the top of the presentation, I talked about really strong defiance breaking skills, and those are on staff. Helmet Breaker is a skill that you kind of initiate with a backwards dodge that you spend initiative on, and then you can just keep spending initiative on Helmet Breaker, which is a 2-second daze, and every time you hit, you retain access to Helmet Breaker. So you could actually just do it infinitely and keep applying Defiance Break for your team. Hopefully you don't actually have to do that very often outside of something like Sabir, where there's a huge Defiance bar, or Samurag, where there's tons of Defiance bars, but it's an option. There's also Hook Strike, so if the Daredevil gets access to Stealth, which it doesn't have additional means to get Stealth, then once you're in Stealth, you can use Hook Strike. That's some CC that doesn't drain initiative. A very good perk. Alright, since the Daredevil builds are kind of the most straightforward, but also retain so much of Core Thief, I decided to give them dedicated pro-con slides to help contextualize them. So the pros of Staff Daredevil: burst damage, cleave, highly mobile, it's got good evasion. Since it needs to dodge in its rotation, that's time that you get to kind of freely evade things, but it might not always line up. It also has excellent crowd control. The downsides: animation. Staff 2, you're charged towards the enemy or just stay next to them if you're already near them and hit them with the staff, and you can't move or dodge out of it until the animation is ended. There's forced movement. So besides the Staff 2, you also have your dodge. The dodge does actually move, unlike it's a melee range build. If you swap to pistol unload, it's not great damage. Earlier we talked about the critical strike straight line, where you need to stay above 90%, 75% HP for maximum damage. Power Daredevil does not have self wounds. It has Fury. It shares some group Fury, which is very common in the meta. But the build actually wants Vigor and has no means of producing it. Vigor is actually in Trickery, which is basically a condition damage trait line. That's why earlier when I brought up Acrobatics, I talked about how it can be used for solo Daredevil because it has what Daredevil wants: dodge upgrades and Vigor. Vigor is good. You want your allies to set up targets with unique conditions, which Power Staff Daredevil doesn't do a lot of. And the dodge mechanic is very challenging. You need to stay at minimum endurance for your DPS to be maximized. That's contrary to, for example, Power Vindicator and Power Core Engineer with the... Is it... Conventions? Can't remember. Those builds, you just need to not have your endurance maxed. So if you're at 90% endurance, you still have the damage modifier on those builds. You should be dodging pretty soon to get rid of that endurance, but it's very tricky on Daredevil, especially if other people keep sharing real endurance. Support builds and also warriors can do this. The duration of increased damage you get after a dodge is very short. It's 4 seconds compared to the 10 or 15 on Vindicator. And you need to actually do a precision land. When you dodge with Vindicator, you can just stay put if you need to. If staying put is the best place right now for your dodge, just dodge in place. Daredevil actually moves when you dodge, so you need to land it properly. And if you're fighting a small hitbox, you can miss. Conditioned Daredevil, this is the counterpart. Conditioned Daredevil, it gets up close, just like Staff Daredevil. It uses double daggers, uses Death Blossom, which is an attack to evade your enemies, inflict bleeding, and because it's a conditioned build, it makes use of Venoms, where you share a buff with your allies, and when they hit the target, you will apply conditions using all of your stats. You get a Lotus Training buff when you dodge. This boosts your condition damage, and every time you dodge, you throw out Torment and Bleeding daggers at your enemies. The cool thing about these is that because you're throwing daggers at nearby enemies, if you're in, say, Gorcival's big fat hitbox, and Gorcival calls in the ghost homies to try and mess with you, you'll try to fire more daggers at the ghosts, but they're actually all going to just shoot into Gorcival. So that's a way that Conditioned Daredevil can get extra damage beyond its mark. Compared to Power Daredevil, which itself fights pretty dirty with the CC, Conditioned Daredevil uses Immobilizing Venom. You put down caltrops on the ground underneath you, which cripple enemies. There's Prepare 1,000 Needles, which I think 1,000 Needles also has cripple, but it's got an Immobilize, Poison, Bleed, just a lot of painful things for your enemy. The pros of Conditioned Daredevil: great single target damage, it's highly mobile, it's pretty much constantly evading except when it's auto-attacking, and funnily enough, it's auto-attacking to get more endurance to evade again. That's the cool thing about the dagger auto chain on Thief. The second hit restores endurance. And the rotation is very straightforward. Saw that at the top when I talked about the kind of paycheck to paycheck way of using initiative. That on Conditioned Daredevil, you'll dodge, do a Death Blossom to go back to your starting position, and then auto attack. Endurance, dodge, Death Blossom. Leap through there. You want to be careful with the timing so you actually evade stuff, but it's easy to learn and has great payoff. The cons: you are constantly moving, so if there are effects that can instantly kill you, you need to be careful. It's melee range, clearly, because it has daggers, but also remember that I just mentioned the dagger auto attack restores endurance. So if you can't melee, can't restore endurance, can't dodge, and your really important 15% condition damage buff wears off. And now all the conditions that are still on the target, they're suddenly a lot weaker, because conditions update dynamic. You still need Vigor from allies, but Conditioned Daredevil, it's a Conditioned Thief build, it has access to Trickery, it produces some of its own Vigor, so that's nice. We might then think, oh, what if we played Conditioned Daredevil and held hands together in the 1,000 Needles trap? But Thieves' Venoms don't stack properly. You need them actually staggered, because, for instance, Spider Venom will share 6 stacks of the Venom with your allies. The most that any person can have is 6 stacks. So if I use Spider Venom, and then Zoa uses Spider Venom, and we're in the same subgroup, Zoa Spider Venom gets completely wasted. So that's uncomfortable, but Conditioned Daredevil tends to have the easiest time with this, because, as we'll get into later with Spectre, Conditioned Daredevil never loses access to casting those Venom skills. They're just instant cast, always push them. So if you decide, okay, Zella, you use your Spider Venom, I will look at my bar when your Venom charges are gone, I will use my Spider Venom, and we'll just do that for the fight. It also has ground AoEs that it's working with, 1,000 Needles. Caltrops is also a quite good skill on Daredevil, which is a very long-lasting 10-second field. You also put baby Caltrops, baby Legos, whenever you dodge, and you want to dodge next to the enemy so the Legos hit. That is Daredevil on... Ooh, what's this? So this is a fun clip put together. So this is in the training area, and we somehow did some PvP in the... Does anyone have an idea of how I made this clip? How did the camera get sniped by Deadeye?
You applied health conditions and killed yourself.
Yeah. Did I explain this one to you?
No.
Okay, I explained it to a couple people because I was pretty proud of this. Yes, so the camera
It's so
is a
good, though.
necromancer who took out half their health, tending to cast Signet of Undeath, and then used Blood as Power on themselves twice. And I kind of like marked their starting location just like in a movie, which is like, okay, stand on this little red plant, walk forward, walk to the rat. There's the rat there, you'll see its name pop up. And the Deadeye, the other account that I'm using, when the Necker gets close, target the rat and shoot. And if we pause at just the right time,
Oh,
you can see kind of the tracing effect of Death's Judgment. That shows you're going to get shot. So it's just a little bit of Hollywood magic to show off how it feels to chew 5 gum and get sniped by a Deadeye, be unable to chew 5 gum because of the headshot. Deadeye, my favorite elite spec in the game. Chupa also plays a lot of Deadeye. Deadeye is Thief's stealth specialist. So there's various stealth throughout the game. There's a lot of stealth in Thief, but Deadeye loves stealth. It's all about stealth. It has a special profession mechanic called Malice. This is a combo system that boosts the stealth attacks, right? So when other players are in stealth, they can get the drop on something. When a thief is in stealth, they can do a stealth attack, which is generally pretty good damage. But a Deadeye upgrades those stealth attacks, them even better. Its traits are notable for granting boons to itself or to allies. Thief's self-boning isn't incredibly amazing. There's some, and you can make adjustments to like meta builds to provide more boons. But Deadeye has had a boon identity for a pretty long time since its rework in shortly after Path of Fire was released. Deadeye doesn't completely give up its evasion, but it forgoes doubling down on it and focuses on using shadow magic to basically curse enemies, and it focuses on being really disciplined with what it's doing. So Deadeye has malicious magic. Instead of having to steal to teleport to enemies, you have Deadeye's mark. It's basically a curse that you put on the enemy. You distinctly want to kill them, and it's going to drain something from them. That's why it's still a steal. It kind of works like a drain attribute in an RPG. If you bleed the enemy, you heal your wounds. And these happen to be just like if you steal from a Mesmer in PvP, you'll get plasma. Kind of like personal pizza plasma, where it's just for yourself. If you steal from a Necromancer in PvP on Core Daredevil, I think you get a Skull for Fear. If a Deadeye steals from a Necromancer, they get 5 stacks of bleed, and the Deadeye heals himself. If you steal from another Thief, immobilize them, and you get super speed. If you steal from, I think, a Warrior, you give them weakness, you get might. So there's this nice curse reciprocity in these F2s. Once you've marked a target with this special variation of the steal effect, you deal more damage to them, you take less damage from them. Deadeye's cantrips, the special skills that it came with. Right, we saw that Daredevils were kind of just in your face, disabling enemies, shutting them down. Deadeye's cantrips also disable enemies, but they also protect themselves. It's similar to the cantrip spells that Elementalist has. And we'll talk a bit about some of them in like the later slides. So, Deadeye is a stealth specialist, and the reason it uses stealth, and the reason it breaks from stealth, is to kill people. People don't really get mad about Daredevils roaming around inside their keeps, annoying them. They're mad that they get killed by a roaming Deadeye, especially if it happens very fast. So when a Deadeye is breaking stealth, they might be doing it to juke you out, especially with the fact that Death's Judgment, the sniper shot, has that tracing effect. They're probably doing it to actually take out their target. Deadeyes directly improve their lethality, and they shipped with a rifle, which fires from 1500 range, and it does a lot of damage out. So, we talked about the Trickery trait line. That has boons for the team, and Deadeye kind of doubles down on that identity. A lot like how the Acrobatics trait line sort of evolved into Dirt. Although that one's a lot more direct. Deadeye can gain a lot of offensive defensive boons for itself. It can also grant basic offensive boons to allies. So that's Might, Quickness, and Fury. So the fun thing is that if you watch these Char dancing, they're dancing at normal speed, and dance animations actually go faster when you have quickness. So if you look in the background of the video, there's the little orange glowing magic. That's Deadeye's mark, the malicious magic that I talked about. And because I stole from the rat, which the rat was not harmed in doing this, I took special precautions to not poison it when I stole from it. I get an F2 skill, which is Steal Time, which is also what you get from Mesmer. That slows the target, but luckily our little rat actor is out of range, so it doesn't actually get hit with the slow, and that grants quickness to you and allies. Cool thing is, these special effects that come from the Steel skill from the Deadeye's Mark, so healing wounds, gaining super speed, gaining might, gaining quickness, those are now default AoE for you and the team. There's even one that grants Aegis. So periodically, a Deadeye can at random block a mechanic for the team. It's completely unreliable, though. So Deadeye has a focus on persistence and precision, right? It's not enough to just be accurate with what you're doing. Deadeye very often wants you to commit to what you're doing. The Malice mechanic rewards focusing on one enemy. When you hit your marked enemy with initiative skill, you get a point of Malice. That's the special mechanic that Deadeye introduces, and you get 2 points if that skill crits. The stealth attacks on Deadeye, which are called malicious stealth attacks, to distinguish them from the normal ones, they eat up all your Malice when you hit the marked target, and they boost the potency of the attack. So on the rifle, you build up Malice, hit them with a stealth attack, it does increased strike damage per point of Malice. Same with the dagger. For pistol, scepter, and axe, their malicious stealth attacks have increased condition duration per stack. There's an oddity, which is the sword stealth attack, where it restores endurance per point of Malice, which kind of doubles down on the idea of sword being a dueling competitive mode weapon. Their staff, which recently got a malicious stealth attack because Deadeye got access to it, that gives you quickness per point of Malice, which is pretty cool when you're playing solo. Alright, now to the big whammy in discussing Thief, Maleficent 7. So, how does Malice work? This is one of the things that I sometimes make diagrams which aren't intelligible or comprehensible to other people. So we'll see how this one goes. So this is like one of the simplest knots that you can make. So we're going to start with spending initiative. You use initiative, you generate Malice, we'll follow the knot, we get to here, we've built up Malice, maximize our Malice, and it refills our initiative. We might think, great, we refilled our initiative, or we refilled Malice, we got initiative, let's just go back to spending initiative. We don't actually want to do that. We want to go for a stealth attack. Because when you do a stealth attack, it resets your loot. You reset the Malice to 0. And then you'll just continue like that. So use initiative to get Malice. Malice gives back the initiative, but first let's do a stealth attack. As a stealth attack, reset your Malice to 0 without using... Generally, sometimes without using initiative, I'll get into that in the slide. And then you can just keep going. So, this was kind of related to when I realized, I don't have an icon for initiative. I realized I don't have any kind of visualization for Maleficent 7, and I don't want to just do it with
I think that's a good one.
text the entire time.
I like it.
Maybe we'll wait for the ad. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right. So, talking a bit more about Maleficent 7. So, on the earlier slide I mentioned, okay, you're going to do the stealth attack to reset first. How do you get stealth on Thief, though? Right, there are cooldown skills. For instance, one of the heal skills on Thief grants you stealth, so your ability to get stealth is tied to that cooldown. Some weapon skills can grant stealth. So Cloak and Dagger is a dagger skill that drains 5 initiative and grants you stealth when you hit the target. You could combo. So you could put down a smoke field with your pistol. Let's actually take a look at that. Put down a smoke field, and then you can use Heartseeker to leap inside the field, and that will grant you stealth. You could use a trait. There is a trait on Deadeye that grants you stealth whenever you dodge roll with a rifle, and then we're saying, okay, we're spending endurance to get stealth, right? So stealth isn't free. Initiative, we have a limited pool. We'll generate Malice using it, and that's how we refill the initiative. But you need to have stealth. That's the important thing. A simplified version of Deadeye, you can think of it as Deadeye is a way to convert stealth, whether you get it from cooldowns or initiative, to convert that into more initiative. That's kind of the infinite engine that keeps going, Deadeye. Except Axe in the beta did something really cool and unusual, but we'll see if that survives. So, when you do a stealth attack versus your marked enemy, it resets your Malice to 0, or to 2 points, depending on your traits, and it inflicts generally major damage, unless you have a sword, lol, or staff. And this enables a proper combo system with the initiative skills in, because it incentivizes using lower DPS skills. If you give Dagger as a weapon set to Daredevil, what it will generally do is actually just Dagger 5 for a backstab, hit with a backstab, auto attack while you're revealed, because while revealed, you can't get stealth again. And then once the Daredevil is no longer revealed, they'll go for Cloak and Dagger again, get stealth, backstab. They'll just repeat that. Deadeye actually has reason to use Dancing Dagger, which is so low DPS that on a single target, it's less DPS than the auto attack. But it generates malice. It's an inherent good that it generates malice, because that leads to an even stronger backstab. So if we look at this, just take a look at the initiative. It keeps going down, but once this bar above the health fills up, once it gets to 7 points, we get our refund. So Deadeye is all about taking advantage of these resets constantly. You're just going through the motion with variations, right? Especially if we slowed this down and paid attention to how many Heartseekers are being used at one point. When is the Black Powder Smoke Field used? When is the F2 skill used? These are all a bunch of small, subtle combos with the initiative system. Alright, the perks for playing Deadeye. It's one thing to say on Thief, cooldowns are for losers. My weapon skills don't have cooldowns. But Deadeye can also say auto-attacking for losers. I'm not going to auto-attack as much as other people. Some Deadeye builds don't auto-attack at all. You can use inventive initiative combos. There are kind of unique execution sequences you can do on Deadeye. One of the things to watch in this video is that at a point, the initiative goes really low. Because, see, the malice fills up, but I just keep going. The malice is filled, stop. No, I'm not going to stop. Keep going for more Heartseeker. Just keep going, because Deadeye has the most initiative to work with in the game. So, if you have a skill that does more damage to targets at low health, like Heartseeker, which is the leap skill that we see repeated here, it's just a bunch of Heartseekers. Unfortunately, this golem is at 100% health, so the numbers aren't impressive. But, the targets at low HP, you can just go for a lot of Heartseekers to just tear into their HP. There are other below 50% damage mobs on other classes, but Deadeye has the special combination of those below 50% mods and a skill that's below 25%, and the ability to just cast a lot of it. As opposed to, for example, Reaper has a skill that does more damage below 25%, but it's got a really long cooldown. Every time I play Reaper, I'm like, damn, you only have one of these? Why can't I just do more executioner sides? More perks. Deadeye generates boons for itself and allies. The boons to allies aren't fantastic. So, it has the most stealth in game for all those benefits. You get to have a 1500 range rifle, which has a little damage attenuation. So if you know how to play Rifle Deadeye at 1500 range, as long as people give you boons, you can apply all that damage. That's why Rifle Deadeye is very good for Kadim the Peerless, where you're isolated from the group on a pylon, giving you some boons. A subtle thing is that Deadeye has Killer's Profits. Your Deadeye's mark, unlike Steel, and unlike the replacement for Steel on Spectre, it's reset when your target dies. Usually, when Saturn is in retrograde, and when you've been on the nice list this year, it can glitch out. But when your target dies, you will recover your mark. So all of the things that say when you steal from enemies, gain boons, when you steal from enemies, siphon health, when you steal from enemies, inflict vulnerability, Deadeye can just keep pumping those out all the time. And it's why I talked about Deadeye rewarding persistence, right? There's the big Maleficent 7 where I have this whole diagram explaining how it works. But Deadeye is persistent even with trash mobs, because you'll set them up with your mark. They might actually die from that, because remember the haha funny mug skill? That skill siphons health. It can outright kill things in open world. And you can also set that up so that when your mark target dies, they explode with shadow magic. So if there's a group of little enemies, you can just reach out, point to someone, they die, they explode. You get boons out of it if you're set up. Deadeye also has exceptional CC output, so if we go back to the very beginning, we can finally talk about what is Deadeye doing that is doing this much CC. So this is another camera trick. This is another Necromancer watching the Defiance bar. This is 4,000 Defiance break that needs to be dealt to destroy this bar. So we're using Maleficent 7, right? Every time we headshot, we get Malice. Build up enough Malice, set your initiative. Use a stealth attack to reset the Malice and go again. And we also have the Mercy skill. So Mercy's come up a few times. I mentioned it on the slide where we talked about initiative. Sorry. I had your bonus. There we go. So Deadeye's Mercy. What the Mercy skill does is you cast it, it grants 3 initiative. That's worse than roll for initiative, the core skill. However, Mercy says, gain 1 point of initiative for every Malice on your target. So let's take another look at this Deadeye using a bunch of stealth. So they mark the target, which doesn't have an animation anymore. Thank you, ain't it? We headshot 3 times, 4 or 5 times. So we've burned out our initiative because we generally have room to cast 3 initiative skills. There are some Deadeye variations that can go for 4 initiative skills. So we've gone for 5. Our initiative is wiped out. We're going to use a stolen skill. Deadeye's stolen skills, I forgot to mention earlier, they can grant you stealth. When you use them on your target, if you have enough malice, they're another source of stealth. Now watch, the Deadeye is going to glow orange while in stealth. This is actually the activation of Mercy. We've entered stealth, which required us to be at high enough malice. We activate Mercy to convert our 7 points of malice into 7 initiative, and we get 3 baseline, so that's 10 initiative refill. This Deadeye's initiative just refilled to full. We use the hilt of the sword. Oh. Sorry, we'll go again. Mark the target. Do 5 headshots. Get stealth. Use Mercy. Hit them with the hilt of the sword. We now have all of our initiative refilled. We bring out the Basilisk Venom. We bring out another hit to the back of the enemy with the sword. We do more headshots. So this is how Deadeye can take anything that ANET has given Thief access to and push it to its very limit, which is very fun, but very complex. Just think about how long I've had to talk about Deadeye compared to Daredevil, largely because Daredevil still holds a lot of the core things Thief and doesn't change them around. It's also good at sustained power damage. There have been times where it's done crazy condition damage, but it always has to nerf that and fix it. They've never really committed to Deadeye being a condition build in the last 3-4 years. Now, the contractual obligations for Deadeye. The bad things. But here are the important ones. Number 1, your weapon set needs to provide stealth in order to make Deadeye work. If it doesn't provide stealth, you need to use your thought skills. Rifle can provide stealth if you take the trait Silent Scope. 2, animation locks become constant, right? So let's watch this clip again. Every time that the Deadeye is jumping in the air, they can't dodge, they can't move. If there's a mechanic at their feet, they're going to eat it. They can't get out of that animation once they've locked into it. The animation is 600 milliseconds, right? So they can go for 600 milliseconds and then move out of the way, dodge out of the way. But your ability to deal damage is tied into being animation locked. And if you repeat all those initiative skills, you're animation locked for a long time. Deadeye has a single target hyperfixation. The Deadeye's mark, the F1, it's reset when your target dies. We talked about that. But a lot of bosses just leave the arena and just abscond with your mark, and they don't give it back. When Sabbatha retreats to her bomb pile and has you fight her goon, she still has your mark. When you stop fighting Deimos for a spell and go down to Hell to fight Saul, Deimos still has your mark. So you need to work around that. Because if you can't mark your target, you can't function as a Deadeye. It's very different from, for instance, if you look at Berserker, if it's repeating the axe burst over and over, decapitate, that's a single target hit. But the Berserker can change to another target at any time. Different from Deadeye. There are fight mechanics that can apply very long duration revealed onto the Deadeye. These are kind of hit and miss. Maybe one that's pretty salient are the Soul Feasts in Cosmic Observatory, one of the new strikes from the expansion. When that little weird carpet-crawling thing comes after you, it actually reveals you. If it reveals a Deadeye and they need to get into stealth, oh no, you better have the Shadow Meld Elite skill, which gets rid of that revealed, but they might fixate onto you again. I have a very funny clip where a statue at Keep Construct fixates on me, and if it gets close, it's going to wind up an attack and reveal me, so I just do my rotation, I'm okay, stealth myself, fixate falls off me like water. Keep doing my rotation. That same statue, it chose a new target to fixate, and the new target was me! The new me! So I had to stealth again to get rid of it. Can also happen on Sloth, and it's very scary, because Sloth reveals you much faster. Deadeye, like Power Daredevil, needs to stay above 75% HP to reserve 15% critical chance. That is dangerous, because it can break rotations that have a single hit to generate their malice. That's kind of noodly in why it works out, but suffice to say, if you're playing Power Deadeye, especially with daggers, you need to avoid all damage that you can, or have healers who are really on point, or even healers that can just cover you in a bunch of tasty, juicy barrier, so even when the hits come in, you're still good, you've got your health modifier. Like if Deadeye had Scrapper's barrier, it'd be a lot more functional. But it's fun having that challenge of, okay, my rotation has a simple premise. I have these sequences that I'm going to repeat. I have these rules, and I'm going to avoid as much damage as possible. All right, now that we're done with the spooky Deadeye section, we have Spectre. The story on this one, shortly before ANET reworked Alacrity on Spectre, you used to cast Wells to get Alacrity. I made a big tutorial video explaining how to get very good with that build, because the Wells had a funky thing where you couldn't properly queue between them. So when you're casting skills in the game, if you use, for instance, Heartseeker on Thief, so you want to do one Heartseeker and then input the other, you can press your 2 to get Heartseeker and then press 2 again, and the game will store that. It'll say, okay, I've read that you've input 2, let's go for another one. The Wells block the input on that. So among other things, I explained how to best use Alacrity Spectre and how to play it comfortably. And for the thumbnail, I just grabbed the concept art for Spectre. This is like the pre-reveal version of Spectre where it doesn't actually show you what it is, which is kind of funny because it looks headless. And so I put one of the Wells at the top, and then all the other ones around them, and then the Spectre icon. So, Spectre is our savior from the shadows. It's kind of the evolution of the support side of Shadow Arts. It has condition and support focus. It introduces more healing to Thief, which bears the Shadow Arts, and it has access to more group wounds than Deadeye had. It also uses Shadow Magic. When Spectre is revealed, people are like, awesome, I've wanted Shadow Magic. It's like, first thing, Thief is just inherently magical. Second, Deadeye has magic. How dare you? However, Spectre has its own very distinct style of using magic, and the Shroud harkens back to a different part of Guild Wars 1 than Deadeye had. So, Shadow Magic maligns your foes. It directly steals energy, vitality, strength from them, and you convert it into healing, barrier, and boons. So, make no mistake, Heal Spectre is a support, but it has to support partially by doing harm to the enemy. So, Heal Spectre, it's got healing, it's got boons, but it's got janky Thief Flare. You heal allies when you Shadow Step. You can Shadow Step in place, that's fine. It has skills that directly target their allies. So we come in with these 2 Wells, we provide healing and a bunch of boons, and then we directly target them with Endless Night, which is the beam that applies barrier, regen, vigor. It works, but because it has to have the obligatory Thief silliness, you need to be really comfortable with that. That's why there aren't a lot of Heal Spectres. Shadow Shroud. So I mentioned that Shadow Shroud, when it uses this magic, has a very distinct style. It has a very purple style. So we can see the Spectre using their skills. There's all these bright explosions of purple magic. Shadow Shroud is Thief's take on core Death Shroud from Necromancer. Instead of getting the Shadow Force from things dying, you get Shadow Force by spending your initiative, Shadow Stepping near your allies for the heal support build, or just inflicting torment on enemies, and using Siphon, which is Spectre's replacement for Steal. So instead of taking a stolen skill from your enemies, like Core, Daredevil, and Deadeye do, Spectre just siphons Shadow Force out of enemies, and it also applies slow. Once you're actually in Shroud, you have skills that disable enemies, so this leap that the Spectre is doing is actually Fear. There's a delayed detonation that blows up when they land, that's a Stun. You have Poison, and Torment. And whenever you use these skills and hit something, it provides healing and barrier for your allies. So, a while back I mentioned that Condition Spectre was kind of weird for Thief, because it was a meta build that didn't have forced movement or any kind of restriction on. However, because it's using a Shroud, not just a Hollow transformation or a Celestial Avatar transformation, it's a true Shroud like Core and Reaper. If you take damage, your Shadow Force is reduced, and you can get kicked out. So Spectres should still be avoiding damage like other Thieves. How does Spectre support people? With a leash. So, when a Reaper enters Shroud, they're just in Shroud, they get this big scythe, but when a Spectre enters Shroud, they form a tether to an ally. That tether remains out to 1200 range, and whenever you grant healing, barrier, and boons, they're granted some of them to you. For instance, of course, the Alacrity, if you're traded to provide Alacrity or Shadow Shroud, that's granted to the Spectre. But all the positive effects are actually around the other person, not you. Which is another weird thing that makes Spectre less popular and sometimes less effective. Because if you don't preset who you're going to buddy up with, which very often the only stable person in some fights will be the tank. Because if someone gets a mechanic on Matthias and has to go cleanse, they are taking away your boon source. That person is your boon source. So, for example, if we look at the Shadow Shroud effects, so these effects would grant barrier, cleanse condition, stability, heal. Those would all be granted. For instance, we could imagine that the tethered necromancer is the one holding the camera, and they would be getting these effects when the specter attacks enemies. So it's thief healing. It's got the movement jank. It's also violent, which is interesting. Spectre's unique skills are a bunch of wells. They're shadow steps, which is pretty cool. It doubles down on Thief's thing about, hey, I move a lot and I love shadow steps. And they have unique effects. Some of them support allies with healing, boons, condition cleanse. Some of them harm enemies by disabling them, inflicting strike damage, and conditions. And when you trait the wells, they all grant resistance to allies, which is pretty cool. Thief does not have incredible condition cleanse throughput, so having resistance kind of softens that. Condition Spectre. So this is the DPS offering, and it also lines up with Condition Alacrity Spectre, other than the fact that the Alacrity Spectre, right, it needs to tether to someone and grant alacrity around that person, not around you. So, Condition Spectre. Both the Scepter that came with the Elite Spec and its Shroud inflict poison and torment from range. With its Scepter skills and Shroud, it has access to slow, chill, disables. It's very often run with an offhand pistol to swap to, which you can use for headshot. So, and then in combination with Basilisk Venom, the core skill, Spectre can be a CC heavyweight. I'd say it's not quite Deadeye tier if the Deadeye wants to focus to it, but often the Spectre loses less than the Deadeye trying to do that. Although, it can be variable. And Daredevil is also very good at CC. Kind of just, like, the reason I introduced it at the top of the presentation, Thief is good at CC. Spectre is a pretty fast-paced rotation. You have Thief Initiative, which is constantly refilling, and you have Shroud from Necromancer. And when you enter Shroud, your utility skills are locked out. You cannot cast them. So if your Venom skills are coming off cooldown while you're in Shroud, you're inefficient. You're losing damage. So you want to be going in and out of Shroud a lot faster than you would see on Reaper, where Reaper sets itself up, throws down its wells, goes into Shroud, attacks, and then is going to come back out for a recovery period. A regular, ideally fixed recovery period of like just 10 seconds, and then go back into Shroud. Spectre doesn't have that. Spectre's a lot more freeform. You don't necessarily want to freestyle everything, but speed is important. Not interrupting your own skills is important. And one of the most famous things from Condition Spectre, and also Heal Spectre, anything can take this, is the trait called Consume Shadows. What this does is it slowly charges up a healing aura, massive range, 600 radius, just like Quickness on Herald, for example. Basically for Condition, as you inflict torment on enemies. That's how you build up Shadow Force, and Shadow Force is what you convert with Consume Shadows. So this is kind of Spectre's big way of acting like Scourge. So Necromancer absorbs Life Force, and then puts Shroud on, and it's tanking damage. Scourge absorbs Life Force, and then can spread out. It kind of turns its Shroud inside out, and is sharing barrier with class, so everyone is more durable. Spectre kind of has it both ways. It enters its Shroud, and that can absorb damage, but when it exits Shroud, the remaining Shadow Force, let's say there's like 70% of the Shadow Force remaining, it disperses that as a huge healing aura for the team, and that can overflow into barrier. It's been nerfed over time and kind of disincentivized with how it handled the traits, which I'm pretty fine with. I think it was a nice way to disincentivize it without outright removing it. And that's one of the special things that you can do with Spectre. If you play Condition Alacrity Spectre, even though you don't have healing power built, the base healing on all the Shroud skills is pretty good. Coincidentally, the coefficient scaling on Shroud skills is quite bad. So if this was a Condition Alacrity Spectre using the skills on enemies, all of its subgroup near that tethered ally, they're receiving healing. So Condition Alacrity Spectre has that special perk where even when you're playing it optimally for DPS, provide heal. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? I also have a summary slide after this one, which might help remind what things we've covered. Core Thief, we're talking about mobility invasion, crowd control, the initiative profession mechanic, thieves' weapons, and the special dual-wield skills that they have, stealth and why it matters more for Thief, the stealing profession mechanic, talked about the core trait lines, so we saw acrobatics, which is all about mobility, Critical Strikes, which is about dealing a lot of damage, but you gotta stay safe. Deadly Arts, which is condition damage, power damage. Shadow Arts, which is a supportive trait line that also has some offensive stealth attack skill traits. And Trickery, which does a lot of things. Stealing, boons, condition damage. Then we talked about our elite specs. Daredevil, very acrobatic, very true to core thief, has a lot of mobility, has a lot of damage. Deadeye, a significant departure, introduces a combo system that makes you care about lower DPS initiative skills and allows you to basically convert stealth into more initiative. Has self boons and grant boons to allies. Spectre doubles down on shadow arts. You are using shadow magic to protect the people around you and harm your enemies. Provide more boons to the team. You have an emphasis on providing healing barrier.
That was an awesome PowerPoint, Iskarel. Thank you very much for all that.
I am very old school with my PowerPoints. They're fun to make.
All the little animations and stuff were great. And the Ren saying how they're loving the pop culture references and everything. It was great.
Yeah, I decided at a certain point I was like, I'm just going to give all of the slides a fun subtitle that I won't always draw attention to. I'll just kind of let them be their own thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the Florence and the Machine reference. I have a Sabir POV recently where I used Seven Devils as a song because I got bullied so hard by Sabir. I was like, I need something moody. I need something moody that talks about Maleficent 7.
Do any of our other fellow thief enjoyers in the chat have anything to add?
By the way, sorry for not noticing the stuff in chat. Kind
I
of
think-
gotten approved.
I think he covered it all.
Yeah.
And later on, I don't know if you plan on doing classes yourself, Zella, on like knuckling down on the specific elite specs and like getting into how to play them nitty gritty. But if you ever want any help with that, I'm happy to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If we do any more that will be specific, then I'll definitely be hitting you up for that.
Woo!
I think.
And we can make the PowerPoint available as well.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe else I can also just add it in the YouTube vid after, so we can get it just sorted after the stream is done, and I'll post it and add it to the VOD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think next. Well, we have a warrior class with Narsen in 2 weeks on the 16th, and then the current vote that's winning, I think, is engineer for a March class. So I need to figure out someone to be my point person on engineer. I mean, I can do it, but it's always nice to get someone that's like, like really knows the spec.
Maybe we can ask Sin.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know that he'd want to do the presentation, but we can see.
Okay.
I might enjoy it.
Sounds good. Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Iskarel or anything about thief stuff? Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to show us, like on the bench or anything? Or...
I didn't really have anything like specific for like showing off in game other than the videos because I just wanted those to be kind of quick to represent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything kind of like subtle that we can talk about. I mean, there's some stuff with like I don't know, like being like a kind of safe ways to get out of the animation locks on Daredevil. So like if you're playing Daredevil, myself boons. Doo-doo-doo.
A deadly raid squad is
Give me all boons.
practice your skills using our state-of-the-art guns.
So if you're gonna burst with staff 2 animation locks repeatedly, what happened to my boons?
Oh
I
yeah,
might not.
no boons.
I think I just hit add boons and didn't say all boons. So when you have all of them, right? If we want to say, okay, I'm going to do 5 weakening charges. 1, 2, 4. Oh, I didn't have initiative. So you can just put in 5 inputs. You don't need to button mash. I talked about that earlier, but it becomes really important when you're doing any of these sequences, especially on Deadeye. One of the things I didn't mention, I guess, is that another big con of Deadeye is that because it wants you to do just so much it wants you to generate just enough malice to hit that reset. If you overspend initiative, you've gone beyond your budget. And if you go beyond your budget, you have to auto attack until the initiative comes back the old-fashioned way.
And if you don't crit, you under spend.
Yeah. If you don't crit, then you also don't get the malice that you're looking for.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
So you need to be extremely precise because you have a budget to work with. If you mess it up, you get the DPS loss of messing up whatever you're doing, but then it also echoes. It's kind of like if you messed up on Elementalist and oops, all your other skills are on a longer cooldown now.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if you accidentally overheat on Hollowsmith is maybe a really good example. If you're playing a Hollowsmith build that does not want to overheat, and you do overheat, that might hurt when you put your tool belt skills on a longer cooldown all of a sudden. So it's part of the reason why Maleficent 7 does not have a big following, is because it's quite punishing. If you actually, I think a really good example of something similar that is not punishing, Condition Virtuoso. If we kind of restructure this, Condition Virtuoso uses its initiative. The initiative inflicts bleeds, and it will generate points of malice that it spends on malicious blade songs to hit the enemy. If you overgenerate blades, that's fine. That's okay. Like, it's inefficient. You might generate your next blades for the next malicious blade song slower, but you can generate blades by auto-attacking. It's okay. Deadeye can't generate malice by auto-attacking. If you generate too much malice and you weren't planning for that specifically, I showed off in some of the recordings that you can kind of you can burn out your budget to do more attacks if the target is going to die, or you have mercy to reset yourself. There's Condition Virtuoso. If you go over budget and you produce too many blades, it's not really such thing as too many blades. Spend them on a blade song, start building up more blades. So that's why it's been so popular. It's positive reinforcement. If you do the right thing on Condition Virtuoso of generating blades, you get to do blade songs. Deadeye is negative reinforcement. Make a mistake, we're taking away your initiative. You get to auto-attack. And when you auto-attack, you don't generate malice. You don't generate Deadeye blades to be able to do your stealth songs. Which, funnily enough, is one of the reasons why I've really avoided playing Condition Virtuoso. Because I'm like, this is going to be the uncanny valley for me, where this feels far too much like Pistol Dagger Condition Deadeye. But it's going to be so weird because I'm like, why is this never punishing? Which, that's a very me problem. Not everyone likes playing punishing things. But I think the reason why some of us really love Deadeye is how much fun you can have within that system, what it lets you do with initiative. You were saying something, Chupa?
Said I missed that build. But to go off of your point, Deadeye plays a lot like Renegade, especially C-Ren, where if you screw up legend swapping and you swap at like 11, all of a sudden your entire rotation falls apart and you have to figure out how to put it back on track.
Yeah, like, since it has... Right, on the surface, you look at Thief and you're like, oh, it has a trait called Critical Strikes, it carries out precision. Deadeye really invested into that. And Renegade did too. Any of these things that have an energy system that you need to use just right, like Bladesworn, you really don't want to mess up your Dragon Trigger. Why? Because it took resources, it took time. You can't just mulligan and get it all over again. One kind of small tip when playing Rifle Deadeye, and this is it's a personal decision, but if skill 1 on the rifle is set to autocast, that's fine. You'll get stealth. It will not automatically cast that skill for you. What it does is that if you have it on autocast, you get stealth, and then you attack, and you try to input 3-round burst, you'll interrupt that stealth attack. You really don't want to interrupt your stealth attacks on Deadeye. This technically also happens with Dagger. If you go for the backstab, and your Dagger skill 1 is on autocast, which is how and to my knowledge, everyone I know who plays Dagger Deadeye plays with the Dagger on autocast, and then you use another skill, like Dancing Dagger, you can interrupt your own backstab. But the Dagger skill is a lot faster. So, in my experience, it's just harder to get that cancel, and learning the timing is just so important, especially because you have mandatory auto-attacking on Dagger Deadeye, overwhelming majority of the time. You need to fill time while Revealed is wearing off. You've already spent your initiative budget on generating Malice, so you can't fill that time with more initiative spending. Unless you get creative with the rotation. There are cool creative ways to do it, which is fun. So, turning off the autocast on Rifle, it technically does have the downside, where now you won't auto-attack with the rifle if you make a mistake and don't know what to do. You know, it is better for the gun to be shooting the enemy for a bit of DPS than doing nothing. But if you want to make the rotation Q, so let me get a goal on the HP. Right, so I'll call out my inputs. So F1, 3, 3, 3, F2, 1, 3. So as soon as I started the Q for the stealth attack, the skill 1, as soon as it started, I input 3. Because I want the 3-round burst for the next loop that I'm going through on Deadeye. I want that queued up. Alright, so again, 3, or let me reset. 3, 3, 3, F2, 1, 3. So that's how fast. Now, if I have the autocast on, I'll show the difference by calling it out again. 3, 3, 3, F2, 1, 3. So there's that delay. I need to actually let skill 1 cast before I can input skill 3. This is it's a personal thing, whether or not you like it, but if you're ever playing Deadeye and it feels inconsistent, you can reach out to me, you could reach out to, Chupa if he's available. We can probably diagnose what is happening, especially if it's in, the context of a golem room. There's only so many things that can be going on. And Deadeye is so highly technical that what's going on might not be immediately obvious, but we can probably find the solution and we can probably make it comfier to play. But Deadeye's not for everybody. If one of the other elite specs is more appealing, definitely go for that. I'm happy if people want to play Thief. I never got on my way to strong arm anybody into playing any version of Thief, but if one of them isn't fun, they don't all have to be fun. I know people, I think Left doesn't hate Deadeye. I think he just really knows its shortcomings and its design flaws, and they're frustrating. And Sarah and I love Deadeye in spite of its design flaws, and at times I feel like I kind of have Stockholm Syndrome and I come to love Deadeye because of its design flaws. Some people love Spectre for DPS, but they really don't like it for heal. I'm disappointed with how it is for heal for right now, but I'm trying to support it. I'm trying to show ANET that we're taking them seriously. Do more. How are you buffing Druid with another healing main hand and doing another Spectre?
Right.
Some people really love Daredevil. Other people, they find that, very common for Condition Daredevil, they find that repeating the same thing is not fun. Power Daredevil is funny because people say, oh, it's just spamming staff 2, this isn't fun. They'll play it and then they'll be like, this is kind of whatever, but I have some notes. You could make it dodge in place, make it so you just don't need to have maximum endurance, make it so the after dodge buff lasts longer, and make it so you don't animation lock. It's like, you just want to play Vindicator.
Yeah.
You can play Vindicator, that's fine. Vindicator is there for people that want to play Vindicator. But if you're taking all those things away from Daredevil, are you still going to play it? Or are you just going to play Vindicator? How many things are you going to change on Daredevil before it stops still being Daredevil? There are definitely things that could be improved. Funny quirk of how Daredevil is set up is that when you use Steel, the core mechanic, you gain endurance, so your damage modifier immediately goes down. When allies share endurance, like a Heal Tempest or a warrior using To the Limit, which shares group endurance, your damage modifier goes down because you have too much endurance. I once did a Kadim 1 kill where we had a Pug Daredevil, and I was the only other Daredevil there. They kept pushing their Signet of Agility. So that Signet increases your precision. It's not a ton of damage. What it does is it fills up 2 bars of endurance on the group. I could not burst. I was constantly denied the damage modifier for my burst. I had to keep dodging to get it off. So
Warriors do that a lot too.
yeah, warriors do that a lot. Deadeye has the problem where if people give you stealth at a time you don't want, it can be quite bad.
Can I just say I am so glad they got rid of the gyro thing on scrappers for quickness because I don't have to see I don't have to see stealth gyros anymore.
We had a run, I think, in Guild Wars 2 Girls where it might have been Eve playing Quick Scrapper and had Sneak Gyro, and I found out and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play Daredevil. And he was like, oh, should I do that? I was like, don't worry about it. This is a me problem. This is a Deadeye problem right now. Go ahead, use the Sneak Gyro. It's fine. It's not gonna play Deadeye here because it works very badly. That's one of the funny things. One of the clips I showed here was a dagger pistol rotation, where it sets down the smoke field and then jumps inside of it. If other people blast that at a bad time, it can cause problems. If too many people... It's very rare that this would be able to happen. You do a combo finisher as soon as you put it down, but like Mirage has this problem where you'll put down a combo field and then you want to keep comboing with it, but too many people have like registered that they're interacting with the combo field. And the game was saying, sanity check, we're shutting off this combo field. Or I think it's like not letting other people contribute finishes to it, which is just incredibly cursed. But despite these problems that Thief has, it can still be a lot of fun. And you don't have to bite off more than you can chew. There are Deadeye rotations that are simple. There are Deadeye builds that don't interact with Maleficent 7. There are rifle builds that have a lot of stealth available to them, so that even if you make a mistake, it's okay. You have more than you need. You can take more than... so you can really fine-tune what you're working with. And a lot of that comes down to how specialized a lot of what Thief is using is. When you bring a CC skill on Thief, very often, that is just a CC skill. Which can also be fun, because when you go to Samurog, on another build, you might be like, I don't know if... Like, is it worth delaying this skill? Sorry. So, if you're playing on something like, say, Berserker on Samurog, and you're trying to decide, do I want to save my elite skill Headbutt? Do I want to save my utility skill Wild Blow? I'd like to use these for damage. Can I play Axe, and Greatsword? Deadeye can have similar things where it's like, I would like to play Rifle and Dagger for damage. I don't really want to take a CC weapon. But when you do bring something in, very often it's single purpose. Dagger Pistol is a cool weapon set for Deadeye because it's power DPS. It's got some ability where you shoot the bullet and blink to that target. It's self-sufficient on stealth, which is very important for Deadeye. And it also has headshot, so you can do a ton of CC. For example, the unload build, where you just spam pistol with, and you just shoot targets from range, you can set that up to do 5 headshots in a row, because you can do 3 immediately, because an unload doesn't really use any initiative. So you get 3 headshots just from spending on your initiative bar, and then you can use the Malice skill. That will give you 8 initiative, so you get 2 more headshots immediately. That's 1,000 base break bar damage before you push Basilisk Venom. So, figuring out how you can interface with these skills on Thief, and looking at the encounter you're in and thinking, okay, what discrete adjustments can I make to my loadout to be better suited to the encounter? It can be a lot of fun. It can be very rewarding, and all the elite specs can do it. They've all got modularity there. And Core Thief has... I didn't want to get too in the weeds about the utility skills, but Thief has some pretty nice personal comfort. Shadow Step is a 1200 range blink, just like Blink on Mesmer, but it has a flip-over skill that takes you back where you came from. So imagine that on Slothosaur. You get the toxic field. So you just turn your head to the right, look back the way you came, blink there, put the field down, blink back, you're immediately back on the boss. And that's available to all of you. There's Haste, which is a stun break, but it also provides a good amount of personal quickness. I take this on some fights when people are playing quickness builds where I'm like, I know this build doesn't have amazing uptime. Like, if someone comes in and is playing Condi Quickfire Round, which funnily enough is something I bench, but it is notoriously difficult to actually provide good uptime on your entire group. So if I was paired with a Condi Quickfire Round, I would say, I'm going to just take Haste. Or it can be kind of not so distrustful. For instance, on Zera, what happens if my quickness source gets sent away? Maybe I'll just take haste and build up quickness before that happens. There's Basilisk Venom, which is the CC skill in the elite slot. Cool thing is that all of Thief's heal skills are good. They all have something valuable to them. In fact, I'd say one of the least valuable is Withdraw, but it's another evade frame. It cleanses basically movement impairing things, so cripple, chill, immobilize. You have Skelk Venom, which is a base 6,000 group heal for the subgroup. It's weird that Thief, of all professions, has that, but it's very strong. And for you, it's one of the strongest personal heals in the game. Healing like 10,000 to self. Yeah. A little over 10,000. Malicious Restoration is the Deadeye heal skill. It's pretty cool because it looks at the conditions you have, and then it will send them to the enemy. So you can, in open world, you can think of it as an agnostic Condi cleanse. Because there is Withdraw, it's the backwards dodge. This removes movement conditions. There's Hide in Shadows. This grants you stealth and removes damaging conditions. But if you're going around in open world on Deadeye, which Deadeye is very good at that, because remember what I talked about how Deadeye profits from killing things and chaining kills, getting all those on-steal effects. You go into an area and you're like, I don't know what conditions these enemies have. I don't want them to keep me in combat. Take Malicious Restoration. If something gives you condies, look for something else. It could even be a little rat. You have to do a quick mark. Send conditions to the rat. The rat dies for you. Thank you, rat. You did your service. I no longer have conditions. That's one of the things that was really appealing to me for Deadeye when I came back, and like especially after it got its rework, solidifying more into what it is today, is the fact that you get steal, and it resets when you kill, which has the downside of you are bound to one enemy in like endgame content, but in open world when you're chewing through enemies, as long as it doesn't glitch out, you get to have all the cool on steal effects on every enemy, which is a lot of fun. And something very different between Deadeye and Daredevil. Because in Daredevil, you use your steal, you shadow step in 1200 range, it's cool, it's cinematic, it's valuable, it's on cooldown for 25 seconds. So you can't do it that much. There's other ways to get shadow steps, but it's very fun.
That looks cool. I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
really
Seal
used
Area.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Seal Area is a pretty cool skill. It works as a projectile block, right? And you can precast it. So if we're in a scenario like the Adina hands, you can set this up on the arena early. The hand fires, set it up, prepare it again. All right, we've got projectile destruction. My bubble's down. Set it up again. That's the cool thing about Thief preparation. You can set them up and then do them again. You can also do that with like Dragon Hunter traps, Soul Beast traps, or Ranger traps. But Thief has direct control of when these will fire. They can't be automatically triggered by trash.
Also, a point on that: the preparations, the cooldown starts ticking when you do the preparation, not when you activate it. So you can double trap. So if you put like 1,000 needles down at the beginning of a fight before the fight starts, and you wait the 30 seconds for the cooldown, as soon as the fight starts, if you use 1,000 needles, it's up again. You can place it again immediately.
Yep. Thief also has a portal like Mesmer. It's got a bunch of downsides. It has the same range, but what you place down is the end point, and then you have to bring the entry point back to the group, which Thief has a lot of mobility, so it can do that. But you can't go back the way you came, and it only takes 5 people, not 20, like Portal. It has its uses, but, you know, it's got its downsides. One other cool thing is that, like Chupa said, since it's Prepare Shadow Portal, you set this down, and then it's good to go. I run back to the group. Here, take the portal. Go, go, go. And then I can, let's say, start running ahead. The group is back there taking care of something. I run out here, set down my portal, and then I'm going to use my Thief ability. Hey guys, I'm back. Okay, you finished the target? Go, go, go. Here's another portal. Again, Mesmer has mimics. This is kind of Thief's subtle way of doing a similar thing. Preparations are very cool. Pitfall is our CC preparation. So if we grab a golem, spawn golem, we'll give it a 500 break bar. So I'm going to set Pitfall. So Pitfall is a 3-second knockdown, so we watch the bar and the golem. Activate Pitfall. Most of the bar is gone. We have the charging period. Set it again. The bar might not last that long, but if you know the target is going to stay there, for instance, if you wanted to use this on Samarog, you can do a very silly thing on Daredevil. Let's see how that bar do like 100. So let's gang up on this golem.
Yeah, like you used to be able to like back when Boon Thief was our thing, you would pitfall trap the center Matthias at the beginning of the fight because you always know that the person you're CCing is always going to be right in the center. So you just can prepare it before they even get there.
Okay, so let's go up to this golem.
All right,
I'll have everybody just auto attack this because I'm going to give you Basilisk Venom in a minute. So let's say this is the break bar on Corsival. So we're going to start hitting it. So here's your Bassi Venom. I'm going to do a Hook Strike, and then I'm going to trigger Pitfall. So that's a big burst. And then I can set Pitfall again, and this will be ready for the next time we need a break bar. You could do it at Matthias, so that as soon as that person shoves him in the middle, boom, trigger the Pitfall. So the fact that you set them up early, but you have control over when they're going to go, as opposed to like Kadim 1, hey, why is the lamp broken? Oh, Dragon Hunter trap. Oh, Soul Beast trap. That won't happen with the Thief, because the Thief decides when to trip. And if it times out, which they take 5 minutes, or the Shadow Portal takes 1 minute, if they time out, they just disappear. There is a funny quirk where if you have a trap prepared, this mostly only comes up when benching. And like, alright, I'm going to change to something else. Let's do some Deadeye benching. You might have to change trait lines. There's a kind of bug where it'll fire the preparation on the target, and they're like, now I'm combat. So, oh, Soundwave came to visit. Hello, small cat.
Hi, Soundwave.
He likes being... He steals his space on my desk.
No.
Also,
Small wave.
you don't have to play Thief as like being super friendly to the team and providing CC. There are certainly Deadeye configurations that don't provide CC. And it can be fun setting yourself up for, okay, I'm just going to prima donna DPS here. I'm going to try and focus as much as I can on putting out single target damage to this enemy. And when the like meta is kind of amenable to that, it can be a lot of fun. Especially knowing that you're kind of, in a way, tightrope walking. Right? You practice with this build enough to the point where you can say, all right, I trust my group. They can cover me on the CC. This is my moment where I'm just going to focus on this target and do a lot of damage to them. I'm going to be consistent. I have sustained damage. I'm going to really layer on the hurt. Other times, for instance at Sabir, I like doing a lot of CC. I think Chupa has mentioned to me that he has a lot of fun using the staff CC. You can take advantage of left and 7 resetting your initiative to just wall up on them with the staff. So for instance, here is our golem, and I'm just going to hold down the 3 key. Bonk, 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 bonk. And even when I need to wait for initiative, you still have access to the bonk when the initiative comes back. The danger is that your animation locked, which can be spooky on Sabir. The alternative is Sword Pistol, where you can move around and headshot Sabir while moving around the repulsing lines and the tornadoes. And those are both instances where you're saying, I want to do a lot more CC for my group. I'm going to make an adjustment to my build. Deadeye doesn't have to be group, but it can be.
I feel good.
Big CC.
It's just constantly up. Oh my god.
Big helmet breaker. It was weird because like this was in the same patch where they're like, we're buffing Vindicator's damage, which like didn't really need that. We're buffing Daredevil CC. It didn't really need that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just so random. Wow, that's I haven't checked
Here-
that
Which,
out.
like,
Holy shit.
I don't
Look
want
in
them
the
to be
chat in-
identical,
in,
but it's just weird.
Look in the chat in this voice channel.
Yeah, there it is.
That's a Samarog.
There it is. Show chat.
27k break bar.
Yeah. That checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Holy shit. Did you say
yeah, Thief can do a lot of CC, like Druid, Chrono, and Thief. Just a ton of CC that they put out. It's been fun, like in some pug runs, when like some people I know who play Mesmer, they like come in and join for one of my statics. Like, all right, let's go to Siberia, let's go to Sloth. They're not ready for me to do Deadeye things for the CC. And they're like, oh shit, I'm not ready for this. I'm out of practice for Chrono CC. I'm not ready. It's like, I wanted a challenge. Oh, there is a time where someone was filling for QTP and they're like, oh, this is like my 5th time doing Wing 7. I'm like, oh, well, like, what were you doing? Because they weren't new to Wing 7. They're like, oh, I was practicing pylon kiting. I was like, oh, that's respectable. They want to be responsible. And they're like, on Deadeye. I was like, oh, I get to race somebody on Deadeye pylon kite. And then we went to QTP and they were just using Unload, where it's just skill 3 on auto. And
I like doing Maleficent 7 on
it can
kiting.
be a good way to like get your foot in the door for pylon kiting because it's so simple. You have Invigorating Precision, you have Signet and Malice, a bunch of healing. You can provide CC onto Kadim and the anomalies, but there's not depth to the build itself. So it can be a way to, like I said, get your foot in the door with the content, have a very like a low damage, but it's gonna support low support level DPS. You can clear. The clear is gonna go slower if everybody played this, but the reality is not everyone plays this. So it's pretty harmless. And if it brings the joy of seeing those 2 pistols fire, if it brings the joy of playing some Deadeye, there's no harm in it.
Whoa, Maggie's gonna take down the camera. She says, look at my butthole. It's a good thing she got a fluffy butt, because that would have been a full-on view.
I enjoy seeing the arc DPS where it's 4 red bars. You don't see that often.
Ding, 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 ding.
You used to see it on like Samurag or like Kadim in Mythric Gambit, but
Yeah.
not that much anymore.
Yeah, I need to play my Thief more. I'm realistically, like, with all of the builds and how often they change with the balance patches and stuff now, I feel like I say this like every time I host a class. I'm giving up on my dream of being able to have like every build down.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to focus. I mean, heal builds, I can kind of pick up all of those because it's a little easier to do. But if I'm going to play a DPS like really well, I think I'm just going to have to only grab a couple of them. Yeah, got to collect all the heal builds. I think I'm probably going to, I'm clearly Ranger.
Not heal quick Deadeye. Don't go there.
Or heal Spectre.
Don't cook. Yeah, I mean...
Chupa, I have bad news for you.
Oh boy.
Zoe's already playing it.
I have one.
Time to do some real damage.
To be clear, my protege, I did not teach them or advise them to play heal quick Deadeye. They just started doing it. And I have scolded them.
It sounds wild. Yeah, I think probably Thief and Ranger will be the ones I focus on the most. Even though Chrono seems really useful, but maybe I'll pour some more time into Deadeye. I'm really rusty on Daredevil though.
I should have included this amazing clip. Maybe I'll put it into the PowerPoint. It's kind of unintelligible to anyone who doesn't know what's going on, but it's a clip of a dungeon solo that Left did where there's a very long corridor in a Raw on one of the paths. And he does a bunch of shadow steps to go down the corridor. And he does it using Maleficent 7. By setting himself up with a bullet in flight, so it'll strike the target and give malice. He swaps to a sword, shadow steps to the target, stabs him with the sword. That's the second initiative skill from Maleficent 7. Swaps back to the rifle, turns around, and uses Death's Retreat on the rifle, which is a backward shadow step.
Oh my god.
It also has a damage packet, so it generates malice. So the bullet in flight, swapping to the sword to teleport and stab, and then turning around and shadow stepping away from the target. 3 initiative skills, that triggers Maleficent 7, refills the initiative, spams the backwards teleport further to go down the hallway, uses Mercy, because that's 7 malice from the earlier combo, 3 more, 10 initiative, even more shadow steps to get down the corridor, gets to the end, activates stealth, keeps moving like nothing happened. It's an incredible clip.
Wow, yeah. Which, speaking of Death's Retreat, I have a love-hate relationship with this skill because whenever I'm downed, I'm pressing 4.
Yes.
And
Oh.
as soon as I am revived, I go bloop.
Yep. Like especially on like QTP,
Yep.
you'll like
it's
get
always on
downed by
QTP.
something, and it's like, well, I should start reviving myself. And then someone's like, here you go, instant revive. It's like, no, no, no. You stand up. The game has the input. Death retreat into the fire.
Yep. And then you're dead.
Ave Maria. Dead. Watch the rest of the fight from the ground. It's pain.
It is.
Like there are some universal experiences that you can find when you find people who like play the same build in the same content. Eventually, they just bubble up.
I appreciate that we both have cat minis.
Oh, one more fun thing. It's explained on the tooltip for rifle, but did you know, while kneeling with rifle, Thief has increased initiative generation.
Oh, nice.
You get 1 more point every 3 seconds. So a 33% increase to your initiative. One of the reasons why you really want to kneel with rifle, because that thing is initiative hungry.
Plus, you want the cool animation around you, right?
Yeah,
That
Deadeye has some
increases your
cool
DPS,
animations.
huh?
Like I love, I think it's just periodic. You have something more. There's like this giant Deadeye crosshair. Yeah, that. Yeah, it kind of just pulses around the target to show that it's been marked by a Deadeye. Oh, I didn't have this in the slides either. One of the things that made me fall in love with the Deadeye was the sound design. It's weird,
Yeah,
it's
it is
arcane,
cool.
and it's spooky.
I like
Like, there's kind of the default arcane sounds of like Ascalonian ghosts,
Yeah.
or like using the beam on Druid staff, which someone on Raid Academy recently described that as like a submarine sound, and now I can't unhear that when you're doing the with the Druid staff. But Deadeye sounds
Oh.
are really unique and really strange. The sound of like Malicious Restoration, the heal skill, weird. It's a weird sound.
Huh.
The like loud ping on the rifle, the ping on Shadow Flare when you're swapping with it, the sounds of Shadow Gust, Shadow Meld. I love the sound design on Deadeye. Some people hate the bullet sound on the rifle, which, by the way, I have a video on my YouTube channel where I go through not every rifle sound variation in the game, but a fair number of them, and there are like some rifles that sound more like typical Earth rifles. If you don't want the high pitched ping.
It's
My
really cool,
dream
but
is to
it's a
use the Predator and have the default ping, which is actually not possible. You can have the very sci-fi laser gun of the Predator, or if you mute it, it doesn't sound like the default, but it also doesn't have the sci-fi sound. It's kind of like a muted fireball puff sound, but the high-pitched ringing can't get on Predator.
I'm on Team Crossbow.
The crossbow's good.
that's
When they
cool.
released that skin, I was like,
Oh, yeah,
I should
that's good.
rebench. I was like, I'll do the pre-med rifle bench over. Because this was the patch where you could just kill the golem with the premeditation rifle rotation with Mercy. And then I got too lazy to do that, because I was like, I don't want to grind rifle weapons showing the RNG just for this bit. And then I was like, I'll just record a bunch of weapons and what they sound like with the Deadeye animations. And then you find out that some skins don't have the sounds. Like the Ebonhawk crossbow does, but the Iron Sight crossbow from Grothmar Valley does not sounds. It just sounds like a Deadeye rifle.
Oh, I'm in combat. No wonder I can't do anything.
Oh, and another understated thing. Deadeye is really good at making use out of pretty much any weapon set you hand to it, even in PvE, which is not
Feel good.
really something the other elite specs can say for PvE. You can kind of play Dagger Pistol if you want for Power Daredevil. You do get the headshot, but it's not incredible. And like,
Oh, that's fun.
if you were to take it to be like, oh, it has headshot, it's like, okay, but your staff has Helmet Breaker and Hook Strike. You actually need headshot. This is a lot of crossbows. Y'all came ready. Whereas like Dagger Pistol on Deadeye serves a special role where one of the cons I mentioned for Deadeye is the weapon needs to provide stealth. If it doesn't, your slot skills need to provide stealth. So if you want to play rifle, you can take Silent Scope, which gives up a big damage modifier, but that gives you stealth when you dodge roll. If you want to keep that damage modifier, your slot skills fill up with stealth. and that means, oops, you can't CC. Especially if you want Dagger. Dagger as your backup weapon because it's more reliable than Dit Rifle because it has stealth on Dagger 5. The compromise is Dagger Pistol, where you have access to headshot for big CC, and because one good stealth source for rifle is the Mercy skill. I've talked a lot about that skill being used to reset initiative to do spamming a lot of initiative skills. It also resets your Deadeye's mark, so you can cast it again, and that mark gives you an F2, and that F2 can provide stealth. So it's a very multifaceted skill for Deadeye. You can use it to shoot out a ton of headshots at the target, and then you use the smoke field. Myself. You can use the smoke field, and then combo inside of it with Heartseeker, and that will give you stealth. So it's a really diverse weapon set where you can kind of have it all, but there is a crippling downside. So I'm going to respawn this golem.
First. That's what it is.
Zoe, do you want to guess what the weakness of relying on a smoke field is? It's a weakness I haven't discussed yet.
Other fields being put down?
Well, you do prioritize your own field.
Oh, well, that's good at least. I'm not
However,
sure. Movement?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, sir, stay in the stealth field. No. Fuck. Move. You need the target to stay still, because if they move out of your smoke field, you needed to leap inside the smoke field.
Yeah.
So this does not last. I have like 2 POVs where it's funny. The first POV months ago, the rifle side was better. The dagger pistol side got doomed because I messed up my gear and my crit was screwed. The recent POV, there's some misery that happens on the rifle side, but then once I swapped to dagger pistol, it was a lot cleaner, and I was really happy with that POV because I love showing what dagger pistol can do, even in PvE. You just need Deadeye to unlock the. And these things aren't like amazing top of the line options because it kind of like generally trickles down, but because Deadeye's thing is consistency, picking the thing that is on the surface on the golem highest DPS isn't always the best option. And that's been a tricky thing for like maintaining Deadeye on the site. Is ideally I'd give a lot of variance for Deadeye to teach people to think like a Deadeye, to think what's the best setup I can, especially to very often to provide some CC. But it might also be because you want a utility slot for you want passes, stuff like that. And we don't really work with variants anymore, so it's been like, well, if I teach this one, it teaches a lot of useful like a lot of useful sequences that you can use elsewhere. But like if I had my druthers, we'd have both. We'd teach using Shadow Flare, we'd teach using Mercy. They both have their values. ANET nerfed Shadow Flare pretty bad. I'm sad about it. Also, it doesn't pulse anymore. I talked about on the slide about revealed that accidentally revealing yourself with strike damage is a problem. Shadow Flare, which is kind of Deadeye throwing a grenade at the enemy, it used to pulse for damage. If it pulsed while you're in stealth, you were no longer stealthed. So you had to be good enough at the rotation, which is pretty easy on rifle, because you could just queue skills around it. But on dagger, you had to actually time when you used cloak and dagger to get stealth. They took away the pulsing and made it so that to get the damage you swap places with the flare again, which is, it can be clunky. I'm not a huge fan. It also, they took Deadeye, one of the like hallmark builds. This is a sniper. It does damage at range. Because Shadow Flare needs to swap now, it can't deal that damage anymore. Because the swap, it does damage based on where the flare ends up. So if you're in the outfield, throw Shadow Flare to the target, it strikes once. Swap with the flare to get to the enemy, doesn't strike twice. It strikes twice out in the outfield, back where you were. So they reduced it from a skill. Condition Deadeye, where it's using 1,000 needles, which pulses, affecting conditions on enemies. It also pulses strike damage. So in my recent pistol dagger condition bench, I decided to kind of flex, and every time that I have 1,000 needles pulsing, the stealth or the stealth source that I use is Cloak and Dagger, because you can never Q Cloak and Dagger. It'll interrupt or whatever, unless you did. I guess you could technically like roll for initiative, Q into Dagger 5. That's got to work, right? It would you'd never do it, but let's see. Where's my... Yeah, that does technically Q. It's just pointless because you would never do that. Especially because, like, on most hitboxes, if you roll for initiative, you leave the hitbox and you won't be able to strike with the dagger. But yeah, I like avoiding the self-reveal on Deadeye. I find it a lot of fun. It's frustrating when counters are revealed to the player, or when other people apply stuff. That's not fun. But taking the stealth mechanic in the game, handing it to Deadeye and saying, make a rotation out of this. Just do combat with this the entire time. You're not just using the heal skill to get stealth through CC. That's a lot of fun. So when they took away the pulsing on Shadow Flare, I was like, this feels like a change you're doing for people who don't play Deadeye and will find it frustrating when they're playing Quickness Deadeye, and then they nerfed it, and then everybody jumped ship because it wasn't the bandwagon thing to do. And we wrote a big document for ANET hoping they would read it back when Double Tap still worked. And self-reveal is one of the things they pointed out, but not as a flaw. It was like, this is just something you need to consider. This is something to factor in for the difficulty of playing. Like, we did want the developers to think, well, it's simple, so, you know, if players want a simple option, they will pick Deadeye. It can be simple, it can be very hard, it can have depth there. It doesn't need to be complex on the surface to still have a lot of depth. But I don't want to keep everyone too long. We're already a bit past our time. But this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the opportunity to put together this presentation and share my enthusiasm for this class with everybody here. It's been great having Chupa hang out with us and provide his thoughts. I always have fun whenever I play this guild, whenever I help out. I will put together the PowerPoint presentation. I might remember to add a couple of things I talked about. And then we can make that available later.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Thank
Yeah,
you so much
I
again.
hope you have fun with Condi Daredevil. It can really be a vibe once you get into kind of the trance with it. Especially like if you play some music and you just like get into the rhythm and you start saying, okay, here's this attack where all the other times I had to soak it up, dodge it at a DPS loss, or allowing the support. Don't need that. Nope. I'm just going to dodge and do damage as I do it. Just dodge the whole time. Can't hurt me. And the funny thing is, the dodge and the Death Blossom, they don't scale quickness. You do still want it so you can auto-attack to refill the endurance, but it's kind of nice when the quickness drops and you're like, I'm a Condi Daredevil. I'm kind of okay with this. I'm partly okay with this. My evade timings are stable, which is a blessing. If it was variable, you'd see Condi Daredevil as getting pancaked. Also, don't be afraid. Flipping off a ledge to your death is just a rite of passage for Condi Daredevil players. It happens to.
Yes, lots of flipping, especially because if you
Time to do some real
change,
damage.
like, 'cause I'm gonna hit this like 3 times. I'm not touching the keyboard anymore, and it just keeps, you know, flipping.
Use
You
your
can
F1
play-
to save yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Teleport
get
back
F1
in.
to interrupt?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Oh, yeah, okay.
Also,
that is so good to know.
for anyone who is going to play more Daredevil, the Daredevil heal skill is lovely because it refills endurance. Use it for an emergency dodge. In fact, it's quite handy on Conditioned Daredevil because I mentioned, Channeled Vigor. I mentioned how Conditioned Daredevil wants to keep dodging to maintain a buff for the conditions that are already on the target. If you go out of melee range, it could even just be for a spread mechanic. You can't auto attack, can't refill endurance. you might want to push that heal skill. Then you can dodge again, maintain that juicy 15% damage mod. But like, if you've ever felt unsafe on Power Daredevil, because you're like, I need to be at minimum endurance for my damage, but I don't like not having a dodge bank,
Yeah.
your heal skill can be a banked dodge. It does come at the cost of not using the other heal skills, which on Thief, we've got a lot of good ones. But if having that emergency dodge brings the most joy, go for it. Thankfully, we're not really like stuck, chained to one heal skill like most of Mesmer or Signet of the Ether.
Forgot that he's moving around.
Also, Condi Daredevil is sleeper better than what it is on Snowcrows because everything you do is a whirl, and so you're going to be whirling off other people's fields.
Yep.
And if there are Mesmers in your group, that's a lot of confusion.
Yep. Oh, I can show the conditioned Daredevil thing. This might be one of the last things to do before we head out.
Okay.
So, one of the special things a thief can do is these training golems. Alright, so here's my
I
Condi
was
Daredevil.
so confused the first time I found out about these things because I accidentally spawned them and I was like, where did these fuckers come from?
Okay, so I'm gonna dodge. I'm gonna put myself into combat with this golem. So it has 1 stack of bleed, dodge, and it got 3 more stacks of bleed. Oh, caltrops hit it. Let me take off my caltrops. They're gonna make this confusing. And then hopefully remember to put my caltrops back on. Okay, so got a bleed for my sigil, dodge, apply more bleeds. Did I miss? No, that was the earth. So the dodge natively applies 1 bleed. Got one from the earth sigil. We're gonna go over to this blue golem. Click on it to watch its stacks. The dodge is targeting everything around it. So whenever there's adjacent enemies, your dodge can strike that target multiple times. And you can see it if you watch me dodging past them this way. Watch how I fire daggers at everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very cool thing that Conditioned Daredevil does. When you dodge, you shoot daggers. Dodge inside the hitbox of one enemy, you just pin cushion that enemy with the dodges.
Oh, from Lotus training.
Yep, that's the other way that Conditioned Daredevil can outperform its bench on Snowcrows. Like, it's a good thing for Conditioned Daredevil to be on the lower end of benchmarks, because, like Chupa said, it has those whirls where when you dodge, you have finishers. You death boss them, you have finishers. Those add up with the amount that we produce. The downside, Thief doesn't produce fields, really, to take advantage of those. You're relying on the rest of your team, which maybe this could have been another side at the beginning. It's kind of interesting how when you look at Thief, you're like, oh, it's going to be like very independent on its own. And that could be one way to do Thief. But the other kind of thematic aspect of Thieves and Rogues is, or do they need other people to set up the enemies for them? Do they need distraction? Do they need to be enabled? That's something I've told people in the past when they're like, oh, I'm really annoyed, like how many conditions we need for Thief to do its damage. And like, I can sympathize, but maybe it helps you sleep at night if you think of it like this. And for some people it has been, and other people are like, you're just coping. I am, but, I need to sleep too.
Yeah.
I don't believe everything I say. Some of the things, I give them credence, I don't necessarily believe.
Nice. Well, I guess I should have us wrap up there, but thank you again.
Sorry for going over.
No worries. I think everyone's still been having a great time. I've learned a lot. Yeah, we really appreciate you being here, and I mean, there's a decent chance that I'll still be prodding you for doing some future ones on specs, but we'll see. I'm trying to limit it more to doing 1 class a month instead of 2 because it's taking up a little too much of my time recently.
That would be such an imposition I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, same thing when I was like told Zarg about future necro classes. I was like, oh no, I would hate to talk about Necromancer for 2 hours, a single spec. Just talk about Harbinger, Zarbinger.
Zarg will actually stay here the whole time. I'm so impressed. Usually he has to leave or something.
No, I had a lot of fun. I managed to cook in the meantime. I had dinner.
Nice.
I was multitasking the whole time.
A closing note on non-thief. I sometimes get asked by people in the help desk, should I main something? Like, oh, Iskarel, like, do you main thief? I'm like, yeah, I like playing a bunch of other things. And they're like, is it rewarding? Like, should you main? And I tell them, a lot of the reason I play so much thief is because I want to make myself a resource to other people. I want to get this knowledge, get the experience. It's, in some ways, a service to other people. But it is something I really enjoy. But you might find out that the thing you like, you develop more appreciation for it by playing other things. There's more to any experience than that experience itself. So, exploring options is a lot of fun. Finding that something is not your taste, that's okay. It just helps refine your taste. However, Deadeye number 1.
Agreed.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, everybody.
They'll have to
Let's
hit
see,
much
reminders
harder.
are that, yeah, I said on the
Thanks.
16th we'll have the warrior class. I'll be streaming raids on Sunday as long as we don't end up having to cancel, but I don't think we will. So, yeah, and thank you to everyone for coming. Do my
Thank you for
little
having me.
thing. Yeah.
Thank you for, I don't know how many we had hanging out in the chat, or the Twitch chat, but also thank you for all of you hanging out. I'm sorry if I missed any questions.
Always welcome to DM with questions on Discord. You can DM me. I can relay to Iskarel, or I'm not gonna speak for Iskarel, but yeah.
Zoa has links to like the help desk and has my Discord. So if you've ever got questions, I can either answer or I'll probably have a good idea of who I can answer. If it's PvP or War vs. the World, though, I probably don't know the people to go to for the answers. But
Feel the fury.
Okay, I'm actually ending the stream this time.
Yeah.
Bye, Twitch chat.